For starters, I just want to talk a little bit about, what this event is and why we're doing this. So this is the 3-day elite hitting blueprint. Okay. So we're breaking this down into 3 separate days where we're going to go through the proper sequence of the swing. Okay. So after the end of these 3 days, you're going to understand how to use your lower half properly, how to have the proper bat path to stay inside the ball, to have gap to gap power. And you're also going to walk away with drills and a hitting plan to make sure that you see the success and the results following this simple stuff. Okay. So Wes and I, obviously we've done this with a ton of players, and we understand the simple and easy way to break down the swing to make it relatable to the player, whether you're in the pros or you're 6 years old. The simple process that we're going to explain over these next 3 days will work literally across the board, no matter what age or skill level of the player. Wes, if you would kind of just introduce yourself, and we'll get rolling.
So, yeah, I'm Wes Helms. I am currently the CEO of CamWood Bats, but I'll give you my backstory. I played 12 years in the major leagues, played almost right around 17 years total, including my minor leagues. So 17 professional seasons. I did not go to college. I was drafted out of high school by the Atlanta Braves, played for the Atlanta Braves, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Florida Marlins. And I was basically the first major leaguer to use the CamWood Hands and Speed Trainer. This was back towards the end of my career. And I'll tell you my story later of how that came about, but that's what got me involved with CamWood. And then I've always been involved with CamWood here and there. And then over the last few years, it kind of evolved into, hey, I want you to, do more with CamWood, because it was my passion to develop players. I mean, I played 12 years in the major leagues. Yeah, that's great. But my passion is to give that knowledge to the players of today, young, high school down, college, professional, whoever I lay my hand on, I want to be able to help them. And CamWood was a platform for that, to be able to get me in front of a lot of people with the CamWood company. And also, I wouldn't put my name on anything that I knew did not work. And with CamWood, I know it worked because of what it did for me with my career at the end of my career when I got the Hands and Speed Trainer in my hands. So that being said, that's where it came about, me being with CamWood. It was all on the development side. It had nothing to do with, game bats, products, or whatever. I wanted to develop players in baseball and softball to be the best they can be. And that's where we are today. I mean, everything we teach is what's going to better you for the game, which is why we play. We don't play to be the best practice players. We play to be the best game players. So everything Trey and I teach is going to make you a better player in game, which is my passion, to be able to get players to that level.
Yep. And that's the main thing is, what we're going to cover today. Yeah, this is going to work not only off of a tee and off a front toss, but this is actually going to work in game. Okay. A lot of the stuff you see today looks really good off the tee and off a front toss in a cage, but then you get out to the field and you struggle in game, right? So, and you see that a lot in today's game, Wes.
Well, and I'll go back to what you said before, Trey. Like you said, we're kind of old school. I don't even use the word old school and new school. I mean, when people ask me, hey, is CamWood old school? I'm like, no, it's not old school. It's not new school. It's hitting. And that's what I tell people. Like, the things that we're going to teach you is the things that will make you better in game against the best pitcher on the mound, because I know what it takes to hit the most elite pitcher. I did it for 12 years. I know exactly what makes you the most consistent hitter off of that type of arm. Some of this stuff that you're seeing on social media, some of it's great, but some of it's not going to play in the game. That's what I look for. It's going to play on short toss. It's going to play on the tee. But once that ball gets moving and you got velo and spin, change of speeds, whatever you want to say, it's not going to make you a better hitter. We want to make you the most complete hitter we can. So I wouldn't say we're old school or new school. I say we teach the complete package of what it takes to hit the best pitcher on the mound that given day.
Yep. So in this live, like I said, during these 3-day events, obviously we're up in front of the camera right now talking. We're also going to be back here on the tee demonstrating drills and showing you exactly how to do exactly what we're teaching, right? So it's not just going to be us talking to a camera. We're going to actually be demonstrating and teaching you as we go as well, okay? So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Trey Sykes. I'm the owner of CamWood Bats. And, growing up, I was always known to just be a good hitter, right? So whenever I was a young kid, I just dominated through the ranks. And I ended up getting to high school whenever you go up to that drop 3 bat. And a lot of kids struggle with that transition of going from, the drop 10s and the drop 5s to the drop 3. And a lot of that has to do with their mechanics. And I was the exact same way, right? You put that drop 10 in my hands, I was pulling and I was hitting home runs forever over the fence, right? Then you put the drop 3 in my hands and I couldn't adjust to that weight because I didn't have the proper mechanics in order to make that adjustment. So my junior year in high school, I hit 180 my junior year. I was a backup first baseman. And as you know, 180 batting average is not very good, right? So I knew that I only had 1 season left. So I wanted to give it all my senior season, just to put all my effort, all my focus into it to see if I could just become a better player. And after the season was over, I remember we had a practice. We had about 2 weeks until our first summer ball game. And I go down to the cage just to get some extra swings in after practice. And I'm down there hitting and I'm just yanking. I'm pulling everything. At the time, I was a dead pull hitter. Literally, you could put nobody on the opposite field. I'm not hitting the ball over there. And I'm sitting there hitting, and some random guy walks up behind me. And, I just look around and I'm like, who's this dude? I could tell he's literally just staring at me as I'm hitting. And he stops me and says, hey, why don't you try to hit the ball to the opposite side? And I look back, I'm like, who is this dude, right? And just to try to prove him wrong, I tried to hit the ball to the opposite field, and I couldn't do it. I just didn't know how, right? So after that cage session was over, I walked out, and he came up to me, and he said, hey, if you focus on it and you put in the time and the effort, I will teach you how to hit. And literally, I just came off a season where I hit 180. I had nothing to lose. And I had this random guy saying that he could come and help me. So I took him up on his offer. And come to find out, he ended up becoming my hitting coach for my entire career. And his name was Frank Gregory. And Frank is actually the creator and the inventor of the CamWood Hands and Speed Trainer. So over the next 2 weeks working with Frank, he had me working with this bat. And we get to my first summer ball game. I remember it's like crosstown rival. And there's a lefty on the mound. And I remember it to this day like it was yesterday. Lefty throws me a 2-seam that cuts right back over the middle of the plate. And I just put a great swing on it. Up to that point, I'd never felt a ball come off my bat the way that one did, and ended up hitting my first high school home run out to left center. So I literally remember touching home plate, sitting down at the bench and thinking to myself, like, this is what I need to focus on if I want to maximize my senior season, because I knew I only had that 1 year left, right? So fast forward, ended up hitting over 300 for the first time in my career, my senior season. Ended up walking on in college and becoming a Division I All-American. So I literally went from a 180 batting average to a Division I All-American in just 3 seasons after I started training with the CamWood Hands and Speed Trainer and doing the drills and the mechanics and the approach that we're going to show you today, okay? So what we're going to share with you today is extremely powerful, and it's what took me and skyrocketed my career and into becoming a Division I All-American. All right. So the first thing that I want to do is, a lot of people will see this bat right here and they're like, well, what is this? You heard Wes say he was the first player or MLB player to use a CamWood Hands and Speed Trainer. So what exactly does this bat do? Right. So you see this big bulge right here above the hands. So this is an overload trainer, which means it's a heavier bat. But all the weight is added right here above the hands instead of in the barrel, okay? If the weight was in the barrel, this bat would be way too heavy to swing, and it's going to break down your mechanics, okay? But with the weight added right here above the hands, this bat's going to feel a lot more balanced. It's going to feel a lot lighter than it actually is, okay? So whenever you start your swing, this weight above the hands is really going to promote you getting connected right away. So you're going to get connected first, and then it's going to allow your hands to stay inside that ball, which is going to let the barrel of the bat stay in the hitting zone all the way throughout your swing. It's going to maximize your chances of barreling the ball up, okay? And that's literally the reason this bat right here was created, was to teach that proper bat path of getting connected and staying inside the ball. And because this is an overload trainer, you're going to see the strength and the bat speed and exit velocity increase as well. It's kind of just the icing on the cake, right? So this tool right here is pretty much an all-in-one that's going to teach you the proper bat path, but also get you that strength gains and the exit velocity increases. So Wes, whenever you first started using the CamWood bat, what kind of like made you, I would say, what did you like about it as you picked it up in the cage and started using it?
Yeah, I'd already been in the big leagues a while. And, you know, like I said, I was kind of probably 3/4 of my way through my career. And what happened was it was laying in a cage in Florida with Florida. I was in spring training with the Florida Marlins. It was laying in the cage one day. And I picked it up and I'm like, man, this thing feels great. And I looked, you know, it was 34-inch bat. And, you know, I'm like, okay, I had no idea how much it weighed. You know, it was a +12, but I didn't know. And to be honest with you, when someone told me later that it was a +12, I was shocked because I was like, there's no way that thing's this heavy, because all the weight was distributed down here. I didn't feel the weight of the bat. I mean, I was holding it with one hand, swinging it around or whatever. So I got in the cage that day. John Maley was the hitting coach. I got in the cage that day, started hitting off the tee, you know, short toss. I was like, man, this thing feels good. I was like, you know, John Maley looked at me. He's like, man, you are literally like on plane staying through everything. And I was like, but I'm just swinging. I was like, I'm not even thinking about it. He's like, Wes, you're so top hand dominant. He's like, you're a top hand dominant hitter, but right now I would literally say you were a bottom hand dominant hitter just because the way you're swinging the bat. And I was like, well, that's good, because that's what's gotten me in trouble in the past, is I would get too far out with my top hand because it was so quick that that's why I used a heavy bat. I used a, you know, 34.5-inch bat, 33 ounces, because I wanted that weight to keep my hands back instead of letting them fly. So this training bat basically fixed me with not even having to think about my top hand. I mean, I didn't have to like think, don't get the top hand out too early. Don't get the top hand out, because where the weight is, it kept me, you know, where I needed to be, palm up, palm down at contact, which is where every hitter wants to be on a perfect swing. So that being said, it basically cleaned me up without me even thinking about doing anything else. Yes, I was a big leaguer. I already had the swing. I didn't have to have a certain drill to fix me or anything like that. So I was already above kind of everyone else that grabs this training bat. So that being said, I was just, you know, to get my point across, is it cleaned me up. Even me being as long as I had been in the big leagues, it even cleaned me up even more just by putting this training bat in my hands. And I'll be honest with you, I really do contribute it getting me an extra probably 2 years on my career by using this, because as you get older, you lose your fast switch muscles. You might lose some bat speed. You know, some guys have to drop down in bat size because they just don't feel as quick. Well, this allowed me to stay the player I was with my quickness and delivering the barrel to the ball on time. And I owe my last 2 years of my career on this bat. So that being said, I mean, that's what sold me on it. And the next day, funny thing, the owner shows up, had no idea he was going to show up, but one of the guys in there that had the bat had been talking to Frank Gregory. Frank Gregory shows up. I built that relationship with him, and that was history. Now, you know, we've known each other ever since.
Yep, that's funny. It's like you're the first MLB player to use the head and speed trainer, and I was one of the first players in high school, or any of the players to use the bat. So that's awesome to hear those types of stories. But I actually remember Frank calling me and telling me that he finally got a big leaguer using the bat, and it was you. I hadn't met you yet, but I remember him calling me that day that he was down there in he was the AA with the Marlins at the time.
Yep.
Yep. But so going into the two things that we're going to cover today, we're going to cover approach and bat path. Okay. So we're going to start with approach, and approach is one of the most important aspects to the swing. And it's one of the most forgotten things, right? The mental side of the game is one of the most forgotten. So I know me personally, whenever I was in high school, like I said, I was a dead pull hitter. So when I look back at it, it's like, well, why was I a dead pull hitter? And when you start thinking about it, I was trying to pull everything because I wanted to do damage, right? I wanted to have that power. And I thought that if I pulled the ball, I was going to have more power than if I could hit the ball to the opposite field, right? I could do more damage to the pull side than I could the opposite field. And I literally shut off half the field, right? And that's why I was a 180 hitter, is because I was so focused on pulling everything that I was limiting my mechanics, right? So I still remember to this day, like we're working with Frank. You know, Frank's teaching me this approach of we look for fastball away to drive away and we react inside, right? So he's trying to get me to take that fastball away and drive it to the opposite field gap. And in practice, I can do that all day long. Off the tee in the cage, I'm doing it perfectly, right? And then I would get into the game, I would get into game speed, and I would always revert right back to what I was used to doing, which was pulling the ball, because that's just what I was comfortable with, right? So Frank would come to all of my games, and I remember that to this day. You know, he sits me down, he pulls a chair up, and he said, look, if you don't focus on this, if you don't take what we're practicing in the cage, if you don't take that into the game, I'm going to quit working with you, right? So, you know, it's at that moment I had to make the decision of, okay, well, should I keep going or keep trying to pull the ball, or should I just trust this guy, right? He's, you know, taking all this time to work with me for free. So I was like, all right, this next game, I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to take the fastball away, drive it away, and I'll react to anything inside. So first at bat, I get a fastball that's up over the plate, outside part. And because that's what I was looking for that fastball up and away. I drove that pitch to the opposite field gap and ended up hitting it off the top of the wall in right center for a double. And I remember, like, that at bat right there is what literally unlocked my entire career, because I just proved to myself that I could do damage to the opposite field, right? I could hit a home run to right center just as well as hit one to the pull side. And whenever that clicked for me is when my career skyrocketed. So, Wes, when you hear that approach, look away, drive away, and react inside, you know, what does that mean to you?
It's a good point, because here's the thing. Here's the thing I want everybody to understand before I go into detail. We are not trying to make you an opposite field hitter. So many people that hear this approach, they're like, well, I want to drive the ball. I want to pull the ball. I mean, you know, my son might just try it, or my daughter might just try to hit everything the other way. No, it's an approach. It's not you are trying to do it every time. You are thinking, that's my approach. Your eyes are going to tell the barrel where to go. You'll hear me say that a lot. The eyes tell the barrel where to go. But if we don't get into that proper position to stay inside the ball and drive the ball to all fields, our eyes can't do what they're supposed to. So therefore, if we're thinking pull, 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 we cannot react away. If we think away, we can react in. That's just the way the body works. So that being said, you always want to think, I'm driving the ball to the big part of the field, to the opposite field gap. That's always an approach, unless you're facing a pitcher that is constantly pounding you in. Yes, of course, we're going to change our approach. But majority of pitchers, you're going to sit opposite field gap to center field, and when they come in on you, you're going to react, because you got to think about it. At amateur levels, you don't have those type of arms consistently that you cannot react in on if you sit away, because they don't throw that hard consistently at the lower levels. As you get older, you have to start eliminating zones, which we're not going to talk about that today. But I want you to understand, overall, this is a majority. A majority is, I'm going to sit away, because what it does, it lets the ball travel, which we'll talk about. It lets the ball travel. It puts our body in the position we need to be able to cover all zones if needed. If we just think in, we can't cover away. But if we're thinking middle away, we can cover away, we can cover middle, we can cover in, because that's the way our back hip is pushing the barrel through the zone. If we start pushing the barrel inside, we cannot go back to the outer half on that pitch. So understand, we train a certain way, so therefore in the game we can react in the proper way. The hardest thing to do in hitting is hitting the ball to the pull side with backspin. I'll guarantee you, if y'all brought 20 high school players in this cage right now, and I told them, hey, I'm going to throw to you, or I'm going to front toss. I'll even go elementary and front toss to you. I guarantee you, there might be 2 or 3 out of those 20 that can pull a ball with backspin. Every one of them will top spin the ball to the pull side, because they use their upper half, their shoulder, or they open their front hip and try to pull that pitch rather than naturally letting their body react to the inside pitch. There's a difference. So when we have the approach, opposite field gap to center field, we're going to hit the ball with backspin to the opposite field. We're going to hit it with backspin to center field, and we're also going to pull the ball with backspin. That's how you drive balls to all parts of the field with your different contact points. So for me personally, That's all I need to say when I say that is with that approach, you're going to hit backspin to all parts of the field.
Yep. And me and you talk all the time. And you always say there's a lot of adjustability in the swing. And that's what a lot of kids nowadays are lacking, is that adjustability. So, just to hone in on the look away, drive away, react inside, the reason we do that is because if I'm right here and I'm set up on this tee, I have this pitch on the outer half, and I'm focusing on taking this outside pitch to the opposite field gap. So if I'm right here, boom, I'm inside that ball, I can drive that pitch to the opposite field gap because that's what I'm looking for. But let's say I'm looking for that pitch and they bust me inside with a fastball. Like you were saying, you have to adjust to that inside pitch. So if I'm right here on that outside pitch, the only thing that I have to do to adjust to that is just get a little bit more rotation with my lower half, because I've recognized the inside and I'm able to react to it. I get a little bit more rotation with my lower half, and it allows my hands to work inside that ball, and I'm still able to barrel it up and get the proper extension through it, get that good backspin to the left center field gap, right? But if I'm having the same setup and I'm focusing on pulling this inside pitch, I'm focusing on pulling that inside fastball, well, I have to go out there, I have to open up, and I got to get the barrel or the bat head out there quick, right? So if I'm focusing on pulling that, boom, I'm already opening up, I'm already flying open. Well, if they throw me an off-speed pitch away, I am screwed. There is no way I'm able to touch the spin stuff on the outside part of the plate if I've already opened up and flown off that ball, right? Does that make sense? So if I'm in that position right there, I'm swinging, I'm hitting it off the end of the bat, or it's going to be weak contact, swing and miss every single time, right? So that's why we have that approach of look away to drive away and react in, because we're able to have that proper adjustability in the swing.
Yeah, the back hip does more when you react in. So therefore, I go back to the eyes tell the back hip what to do. So you're going to hear me say that a lot. Whoever's on here, the eyes dictate everything. So that's why when we train, we have to train a certain way off the tee, off front toss, off BP with proper approach, because now we're training our body and our eyes to work like that. And then all of a sudden, the ball comes in. When the ball comes in, it speeds you up. It's naturally going to speed you up. But if we train in, two things are going to happen. We're not going to hit the outer half consistently, but then when we speed up, we're going to hit a red line, and we're going to over speed up. We're going to over top spin, or we're going to pull it foul. And that's what we don't want to do. The balls you need to keep fair, and they need to be driven. The balls that you foul off are balls that you should foul off. So therefore, you got to understand, if we train a certain way, our eyes and our mind and everything's building muscle memory. Then in the game, when we see that pitch, our back hip and our hands and our barrel are going to naturally speed up to get to that inside pitch with reaction.
Yep. And, Wes, me and you working with a lot of players, they'll come to us, or a parent or somebody will come and say, my son or my daughter, they just keep rolling over to the pull side. Like they literally are rolling over to the pull side, hitting off the end of the bat. They're getting jammed. How can we fix that? And immediately your mind wants to go to mechanics, right? Well, one thing that I want to hit on is approach can fix your mechanics. If your approach is the right way, and your approach is look away, drive away, and react inside, then you're not jumping out and trying to go get that inside pitch and pull everything. You're letting that ball travel, and you're able to stay back and drive that pitch to the opposite field gap, which is going to help your bat path or your barrel stay in the hitting zone all the way through. So if you're constantly pulling everything, and your approach is pull, you literally could fix your mechanics by just changing your direction, changing your approach of driving the ball to the opposite field gap.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that. Chipper Jones. So I'm in Atlanta. I'm taking BP, like I said, top hand dominant hitter. And I am literally driving balls over the shortstop's head and, to the left field side, like even left center, I was driving balls. But it has that slight little top spin to him. And I'll never forget it. He looked at me and he goes, "Hey, don't you change your direction. Don't change your mechanics. Let's don't think palm up at contact. Well, let's don't change any of that. I want you to try to do the same thing you're doing now, but let's drive this ball as hard as you can right back up the middle to the second baseman. Let's just shift the field. And I remember in BP that next round, I tried to drive every single pitch, dead center to right center, right over the second baseman's head. And it literally, I was just peppering, just nuking backspins, just boom, boom. I mean, I can remember Andrew Jones in center, and I'm literally hitting line drives right at his chest, just catching them right in his chest. The ball wasn't dying. It wasn't top spun. It was just kept carrying and carrying. That night in the game, I'll never forget it. We're in the ninth inning. Alan Embry comes in. This is a lefty throwing 96 to 90, 98 miles an hour. And most people would say, like most people that don't know hitting, they're like, oh my gosh, you got to get it ready. You got to get it going. He's coming at you. He's got 98. Where I used that approach Chipper gave me that night. I said, you know what? No, I'm going to get there. I'm going to load and get to my hitting position on time. That's always the most important. But I'm going to think I'm driving this ball over the center field fence. And I literally stayed my approach center to right center. And I tried, and he threw one. It was probably 96 to 97. He had a little arm side run to it. So it kind of, had that little tail. And I literally hit probably like a 440-foot homer, center, just the right side of center. And I come in the dugout, and I'll never forget it. Chipper goes, I told you. And he's like, you don't have to try to pull the ball. The guy's throwing 97, 98 miles an hour. You still don't have to pull him. You don't have to get the barrel there. Your barrel is going to get to the ball, Wes. It's going to get there if you have the right approach. You actually are going to get the barrel there quicker if you have the right approach, because your eyes and everything naturally tell it where to go the right way. If you try to get it there, you're actually going to be slower getting the bat there. That's when you're going to top it. That's when you're going to get jammed. That's when the bad things happen on the pull side. But if you literally have that approach, center to right center on these guys, I promise you the barrel is going to get there. If you get to the hitting position on time, you will do some serious damage to the big part of the field. And that day on, it just changed my career, thinking of how my approach needed to be in game consistently against majority of pitchers.
Yep. I remember even in college, like if I have a game where I'm rolling over to the pull side, I might go, 0 for 4 with 2 or 3 rollovers to the pull side. The next day in BP, my very first round, I'm seeing how hard I can hit the ball on the ground to the second baseman. Like I'm trying to drill the second baseman's head off with straight line drives in that first round of BP. And the reason you do that is changing your direction is going to keep your bat in that hitting zone all the way throughout your swing. It's going to fix those mechanics of trying to pull everything and coming around it. So speaking of Chipper Jones, Wes and I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Chipper for about 45 minutes or so. So one of the clips, we'll get to the full interview later, but one of the clips was really good on approach that I want to show you right now. Okay, so Chipper Jones, obviously y'all know Austin Riley with the Atlanta Braves, the third baseman. Whenever Austin came up, Chipper was the one that was working with him. And Chipper talked about how one of the big adjustments that they made wasn't just, it wasn't the mechanical side, it was the approach side. They changed his sights. Okay. So I want to share this screen right here with you. And I want to show you or share with you that video. Okay. Boom. Do you see it, Wes?
I can see it.
All right. So I'll play it. You can tell Austin Riley took a change with his approach at the plate. And he had a hell of a year this past season. But you can see Austin started using the entire field. And that's what allowed him to start being that better hitter. And the averages started to go up, and the power numbers went up as well.
Well, Austin, we didn't change anything mechanically with Austin. There's nothing wrong with Austin's swing. We just changed his sights. We, as opposed to trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark from left center field to the foul pole like we were talking about earlier. We got a huge State Farm sign in right center field, right there in the middle of our bullpen. And I'm like, Austin, I'm telling you, if you try and knock down that State Farm sign every single pitch, a couple of things are going to happen. Your contact point's going to pick up because you're going to let the ball travel. You're going to have your bat path is going to stay in the zone longer. Therefore, you're going to make more contact. Secondly, your chase rate on pitches outside the zone is going to go down. Why? because you're allowing the ball to travel. Now that slider that's off the plate that's been giving you trouble, you see it now because your sight changed. You're not flying open to try and get the head out to hit it to the left. You're letting it travel and trying to hit it out to the right. Now your chase rate goes down. You've seen his strikeouts go down, his walks go up, just for the simple fact of changing his sights from left center to right center.
So I'll hit on that real quick. You heard him say one thing that stood out. You see the pitch now. If you let the ball travel and your approach and direction is where it needs to be, it allows your eyes to stay still. If I'm constantly up here, looking to pull like this, it allows my head to move too much. It allows my eyes to move too much. That's what I don't want. If you heard Chipper, he was talking about it allowed him to see that slider away now. Because what it does, it keeps your eyes still. Just by changing your direction doesn't just clean your mechanics up. There's so many things that go into that. Like he said, the eyes. It allowed his walks to go up. Guess what? Now you're laying off pitches that you normally used to swing at. So therefore, it's not just cleaning your mechanics. It's helping you become a complete hitter. Now you're going to walk on pitches that you normally swung at and maybe put in play weekly, or you might have swung and missed and struck out. So therefore, think about all this stuff when we're talking about it. Like, it's not just about the bat. It's not just about the swing. It's about being able to see the ball. It's about being able to lay off pitches. It's about being able to be yes, 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 no, because my head is still, my direction is right back, center to right center, so it keeps everything in line so I can do those things. Because if I'm yes, 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 or yes, 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 no, if I'm yes, 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 no with this, then I'm not going to be able to hold my swing up, because it's going to be yes, 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 no. And I'm going to be out here like this, and I'm not going to be able to hold my swing up. I'm probably going to check swing more. I'm going to swing at pitches I shouldn't. So understand that. The approach of it changes everything as a hitter. And you heard Chipper say that. And, of course, Austin Riley is a phenom, but he also goes through struggles as well. And at that time, he was struggling. But just hearing that probably made him take off and do the things that Austin Riley does.
Yep. So, like I said, obviously, we've been talking about this approach: stay away, or look away, drive away, react inside, right? And okay, the person's watching this right now is like, all right, I understand that I need to do this. Well, how do I do it, right? How do I teach my son or my daughter or my player how to do this approach? So, Wes, what's a good drill for people to do to teach this?
Best drill. Okay. Put the tee on the outer half. I mean, literally right on the top corner of the plate on the outside corner. Getting your normal stance. You're going to have a person front tossing in front of you. The person front tossing is going to throw the ball middle to inside corner. I mean, I'm okay with even going a ball inside as well. So basically, you don't want to throw anything middle away to away, because that's where this ball is. So what you're going to do, the front toss person is going to toss. My approach is to hit the ball that is on this tee. My approach is I'm going to think, even though this ball's coming at me, middle to middle in, my whole thought process is I'm watching the ball come, is that ball, I'm hitting that ball to right center. So therefore, you want the tosser to front toss, okay? Boom, and you're going to swing. So if he comes in, here. Okay, he throws another one, there. Then the front toss person is going to mix it up, and he's going to, boom, hold the ball and not toss it. So when he holds the ball, boom, I drive this ball off the tee the other way. The point of this drill is my approach is right center on the ball away. Middle to middle in, I'm going to hit those pitches with the same approach as I would hitting this one. So therefore, when the person that front tosses fakes the ball, I'm still able to go here to there and stay inside the ball, behind the ball. You'll hear me say that a lot: stay behind the ball and drive the ball. If I have this approach, pull, look what happens. The barrel comes around that pitch. More than likely, you're going to nub it off the end or you're probably not going to hit it. So therefore, if this comes this way, I can't react that way. But if I have the approach away, I can still react in. That's the whole point of this drill. It's one of the best drills I've ever done for myself. It's one of the best drills I've ever done with kids I've worked with to correct them in understanding the approach and that you will get to that inside pitch.
Yep. I remember coming to Alabama for us to do our film week, and I've never done this drill before. I asked Wes, I was like, what's the best thing for you to teach approach? And Wes told me about this drill, and I was like, all right, let's try it. Right. So I had never done this before. And I remember like it was like a baby giraffe trying to walk for the first time at the beginning, but ended up making an adjustment. But I want to show you a video of me doing this drill. Okay. That way, Wes just described it to you. But now I want to show you a video of me doing it. All right. So boom, we're going to share this.
And most recently, you can tell Austin Riley took.
I apologize. That's the Austin video. I just pulled up.
The one on the screen. The one on the screen was the front toss.
Well, it wouldn't let me play it. Like the Austin Riley video popped up.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have to find it.
So while he's finding it,
There
I
it
mean,
is. I
all
got
right,
it.
go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
Good.
Yes.
So you see as I'm front tossing here, that ball's on the inside corner. He's pulling it. And Trey, go ahead and just keep playing it.
There you go.
And then when he goes away right there, there's no pause. I mean, basically it's all in one motion. So therefore, I don't want to pause and then hit it. I'm thinking away. I'm thinking driving this ball right center. So therefore, if it's tossed, I react in. But if it's not, I'm right when my front foot hits, I'm driving that ball to right field. So it shouldn't be stop and then swing. Everything works in one piece and one motion on this drill. And once you learn to master that, that's going to carry over to the game because now you've learned body control. As you see, it says stay back, stop lunging. It keeps you behind the baseball.
Yep.
We cannot do damage if we're not behind the baseball. We have to stay. If we get on out front over the baseball, we're done. This is a great drill, not only for the approach, but also teaches you balance, stability, body control, and just staying behind every contact point, which is huge.
Yep. And then just from a hitter's perspective, me doing this drill, like Wes was saying, as the hitter, I'm thinking and I'm focusing on hitting that outside pitch to the opposite field gap. If he throws me inside, then I adjust. I get the proper rotation with my lower half. I still stay inside that ball, and I'm trying to hit it to the left center field gap or back up to center field, okay? The whole key of it is to stay inside the ball and not spin off of it, right? So if I play this one more time, you'll see, like Wes was saying, if he fakes it, there shouldn't be a hesitation. It should be boom right there to the opposite field gap because that's what I'm already focused on, right? So again, he tosses it inside. I get that adjustment. I stay inside the ball. I don't roll over.
Very good. There you go.
So Trey, go back to the second swing.
Second swing. All right, hold on. The first one.
Good.
This
Right
is
here.
second. Play it.
Play it. If you watch, not that one, the next one, this one. If you watch this one, wait, go back to the beginning. No, the very beginning.
The very beginning?
Yeah.
All right. You're looking for the all right.
That one. So if you see, go back to where that contact point is on the plate. Okay. So if you see where that contact point was, that ball's middle in. He drove that ball just to the left of center field. When you have the proper approach and you stay behind the ball and your hands stay inside the ball, that's how you hit that ball. If I start my upper rotation with my shoulders and my hands do not stay inside that ball, I pull that ball to more toward the left field side and to third base. That's probably going to be a ground ball to third base or a top spin ball to left field. That's the difference in having an approach and not an approach, because he had an approach to hit that ball on the tee the other way. That ball came middle in. He actually drove that ball just left of center field. I wouldn't even say it was left center. So that's what it will do. It will clean up everything and allow you to drive every pitch that you swing at and make contact with.
Yep. I think this is a very valuable one here too. The one where you tell me good miss.
Yep.
Right. So we'll play this right here, and I want you to describe why this is a good miss.
Okay. So go back and try to pause it at contact if you can. Okay, go back one click. Right there.
There we go.
So if you look, his hands are inside that ball. Look at the angle of his bat and look at how his, he's not around the outside part of the ball there. With the proper approach, that allows him to hit that pitch with backspin. Now, that ball beat him. He actually got beat on that ball. But even when you get beat with the proper bat path, you're still able to put a good swing on the ball and drive that pitch. Now, if he wouldn't have hit the bottom half of that ball, that is a line drive up the middle. So that when I say good miss, I'm thinking solely on bat path and approach. Yes, he hit the bottom of the ball. So what? That's going to happen. That's human nature. But where you hit the ball is what I'm looking at with the bat path, the angle of the bat, your approach. That's what I'm saying. It's a good miss. Even though that ball went up and was probably an out in center field, that's a great miss, because with that approach, if he hits up on that ball another probably quarter of an inch, that ball is absolutely driven to center field for a line drive base hit. So if he would not have had that approach on that pitch, there's no way he could have gotten the barrel to the ball the correct way there. And even though some people say, oh, you got beat, it's okay to get beat. Trust me. You want to get beat as a good hitter. I would rather get beat than be out front and roll over, because therefore I know that my bat pass where it needs to be. So therefore I'm going to consistently barrel balls more than if I get out and roll over. So that's what I mean by a good miss.
Yep. I like that. That's a good explanation. So that's the thing is, I got to turn this. There we go.
We got one question real quick. I know we got
ahead.
one question. I don't want to leave them out. We got Tracy said fixed for constant hitting under the ball. And I know we had one up top. It said by actually Tracy again, backside collapse, how to fix it. High tee drill. I'm telling you right now, the high tee will clean up so much if your son or daughter is hitting everything straight up, or if they are collapsing this way, the high tee makes you get that. Okay. And no matter where you hit the ball, high tee or whatever, your barrel is always going to be below your hands. It's never going to be above your hands. So don't think you're telling them to hit down on the ball, or you really, really want to focus on high tee if you're hitting everything up in the air, because what that's going to do, it's going to clean up your direction and contact of hard line drives, but it's also going to build that muscle memory. You can't dip to hit that high pitch. You have to be direct to that high pitch, which over consistent amount of reps is going to clean up mechanics.
Yep. So now what I want to do, obviously we've been talking approach for 45 minutes now. So I just want to hone in on one last thing on approach. I want to show you a video of Derek Jeter. So Derek Jeter, obviously y'all know his one of the best players. If he gets jammed or he's late inside, he's patented keeping his hands inside, and he's taking that inside fastball and he's shooting it to right field, right, for a base hit. So I want to go through and show you what Derek Jeter's approach is at the plate. All right. Let me share the screen. I got to pull his video up. Here it is. All right.
Is where they were at and how you stayed inside the ball. Here you are in 96. Ball's in the middle, and you stay through the ball and rifle it off that porch, off that short porch in right center.
It was predetermined I was going to stay inside the ball. For me, I wasn't good enough to guess pitches. I looked for one pitch every at bat, every pitch, fastball right down the middle. So I'd look fastball down the middle every single pitch, and my approach was to stay to right center field.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I would do that. I would stay inside the ball. So then I felt as though I was tough to pitch to because it gives you more time.
So Wes, you hear him say that. You hear him say that his approach was right center field, but he was predetermined every single at bat he was going to stay inside the ball because it made him hard to pitch to and it gave him more time. So what does that mean to you?
It gives you more time to recognize the pitch. It gives you more time to – so here's the thing. When we get on time, when we talk about being on time, of course, there's two things to think about. If I'm here, I got to get to that position on time. I got to get to the hitting position on time, considering who's on the mound, whether, hard thrower, soft thrower, I'm loading for all speed, fastball, whatever. That changes. Our different load timing changes, but we got to get to the hitting position on time or we can't do what we have to mechanically. So what he means by giving himself more time, the game is going to speed you up. Understand that. The game is going to speed you up. So therefore, the more I think right center, the more it gives me more time to do what I have to react to the pitches. If I'm over here thinking pull side, I have to speed myself up even more. So now I've sped myself up personally. The game has sped me up. Now I'm out of control. I can only hit certain pitches in a cube. I become a one-dimensional hitter, and that's not what we want you to be. We want you to be multidimensional, have adjustability during that at bat. So therefore, when I let the ball travel, it allows me to keep my head still. It allows me to keep my eyes still. It allows me to track the ball. If I'm consistently looking out here, left center or left field, I have to look out there to hit the ball. But if I think right center, it backs the ball up so I can track it even longer to do what I have to do. So therefore, your chances of success go up when you give yourself more time. And the only way you can do that is let the ball travel to keep your body under control, keep your head and eyes still. And that's what Jeter's talking about right there.
Yep, that's exactly it. Like I said, so I just wanted to hone in on approach. I think approach is one of the biggest concepts that nobody really talks about and nobody really practices and masters, right? Like I said, that approach right there can really change your game the way it did mine. Like I said, I attribute the approach side to being what unlocked my career and helped me become that better hitter. So I think we've touched enough. I call that our base approach. Wes said that, there's different approaches as you get more advanced, but that right there is our base approach. Okay. I know in college, I took that approach to probably 95% of my bats. Whenever I would change is whenever a college or a team was trying to bust me inside. If they're trying to throw me inside, then I would just make that adjustment and look for that pitch. But, 9 times out of 10, my approach is fastball away, drive away, react inside. All right. So enough on the approach side. So now I want to get into, a lot of people ask me the question. Obviously, I went from a 180 hitter to an All-American in 3 years, which is a really quick turnaround, right? Being able to go from a backup first baseman to walking on in college and seeing success right away. I saw more success in college than I did in high school. So why is that? Well, Frank, whenever he started working with me, taught me the number one key to hitting, okay? And the number one key to hitting is how to stay inside the ball. And I'm sure you've heard that term before, stay inside the ball, but you don't really know exactly what that means, right? Wes, I know me and you have talked. Miguel, you played Miguel Cabrera, one of the best players to ever do it. So tell me, what does it mean to you to stay inside the ball? What's the importance of that?
So basically, staying inside the ball means that we are getting to complete connection, which is the most important thing. You got to be connected. Once we start the swing, getting to connection is the most important thing. And our hands staying inside the ball, which means our hands don't get away from us. So basically, if I had to show you, like, staying inside the ball means I'm driving to connection right here. I'm connected. And I want to stay on that path of my hands staying inside the ball this way. If I get away from my body, my hands get around the outside of the ball, which we don't want. Because if my hands go away from my body, the barrel has to do something that it doesn't want to do, and it has to come this way. But if I'm here, Okay, getting to connection and staying inside the ball. My hands are being driven inside this baseball by my back hip. I'm not pushing. I want you to understand this, because there's a lot of people out there that say CamWood is a push swing. No, it's not. It's not. We do not do this. I am not pulling the knob through the zone. I am not doing that. I'm getting to connection with good direction. My back hip now is taking my knob where it needs to go with good direction. But look, I'm staying inside the ball, which allows my angle of the bat to hit the outside pitch here, the middle pitch there, and the inside pitch there. It does not, I cannot get my barrel around the ball and hit the top spin like we don't want. But when my hands come this way, I'm not staying inside the ball. My barrel has to come and go around this way, which is what we don't want. Now, I want to hit on that. People talk about barrel turn, barrel turn, barrel turn. Yes, you want your barrel to turn. Your barrel is going to naturally turn with hip drive. And let me explain that. So if I stay inside the ball, okay, if I get here to connection, my hip is driving my rotation and my barrel, my hip and my top hand. But look, I'm staying inside the ball with proper bat angle. I'm not this way. Okay, that's what I want you to understand. My barrel is going to turn, okay, as I get to my contact point, and it's going to turn even more as the ball is inside, because look, now I'm hitting that pitch there to keep it fair. My barrel has turned, but it's coming from here. I'm not turning it like that. I don't want to turn it this way. I don't want to like go that way. I want to be here, stay inside the ball, and let my back hip turn the barrel.
Yep, exactly. And like I said, Wes, me and you talk about all the time. Players now, they try to, I guess, force their barrel into the zone and that barrel turn. And they do that by turning off with their upper body. Whereas the rotation, the swing is going to come from that lower half. That's what's going to get that proper barrel turn through the zone, not the upper body pulling off, right? So a lot of people ask me that question of, why do I want to stay inside the ball? And I will show them this demonstration right here. This is exactly how Frank taught it to me, and that's what made the light bulb moment go off into my head. So this setup right here, I have these balls lined up in a row. It's mimicking a fastball coming into the zone, okay? So I want you to think about right now, a bunch of players try to pull the ball, right? So if I try to pull this pitch, I want you to see exactly what happens. So to pull that, I have to take my hands out, away from my body, away from the line the pitch is coming in on, to try to get my barrel head out and pull this ball, right? But if I do that, if I'm a little bit late, I get jammed, right? If I'm perfectly on time, I can barrel that up and I can drive that pitch to the pull side. But if I'm a little bit late, I'm going to hit that ball off the end of the bat and get weak contact every single time, okay? And that's why dead pull hitters are 220 hitters, 230, right? And that's why I was a 180 hitter, because the sweet spot of my bat was not in the hitting zone throughout my entire swing, okay, all the way through extension. So here's why you want to stay inside the ball. And I love the Derek Jeter clip. He said at the end that he focused on hitting the ball to the opposite field because it gave him more time, right? And I love that term. It gave him more time. Here's why. So if I'm sitting right here and I'm focusing on hitting this pitch and I stay inside it, boom, I'm connected, I'm inside. If I'm a little bit late, I can barrel that ball up and I can still drive that to the opposite field. If I'm perfectly on time, I'm driving that back up the middle for a line drive. And if I'm a little bit out front, I'm still inside that ball and I'm able to drive it with backspin to the left center field gap. Okay. So whenever somebody asks, why do I want to stay inside the ball? It's because it prolongs the amount of time that the barrel or the sweet spot of your bat is in the hitting zone. Okay. If I were to ask you that question right now, how many at bats are you perfectly on time? Wes, how often are you just perfectly on time?
It's actually been proven at the major league level 10% of the time. And you're talking about at the most elite level, 10% of the time. So I would say probably college down is even less.
Well, that's the thing. So if you're on time 10% of the time, hitting is not about what you do when your timing is on. Hitting is about what you do when your timing is just off, when you're a little bit late, when you're a little bit out front. Are you still able to barrel those pitches up, right? And if you stay inside the ball, it allows your timing not to be perfect, and you're still able to get that consistent contact and drive the ball to all parts of the field. That's why your best hitters, your Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, all your top guys, they've mastered the art of staying inside the ball, and they can hit from foul pole to foul pole with power and with proper backspin. And Wes, I know you played with a lot of those guys.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Every hitter I ever played with at the big league level that played, okay, let me explain this, that played a long time in the big leagues or was a Hall of Famer, every single one of them worked on staying inside the ball. And you hear a lot of things now, like, you know, I'll even say it. I heard a college coach say it a few weeks ago, like, you know, I don't want my hitters to stay inside the ball. And I'm like, good luck. I'm like, and then it's funny. I will never name schools or names on here when I talk, but I looked at their stats the last 3 years in hitting, and they were at the bottom of their conference. And I'm like, yeah, you might want to change that approach a little bit. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I would, you know, because when you stay inside the ball, it just allows you, like Jeter said, you have more time. Your barrel's through the zone longer, but the right way. It's going through the zone. You're staying on plane, and it's going through the zone with, you know, a proper bat path for, you know, probably 3 feet. Like I always tell people, we don't want to be one-dimensional and hitting a cube. We want to be able to hit in a box, especially against most pitchers. Like I said, there are exceptions to the rule. We have to eliminate pitches. If a guy's throwing 98 with a hard slider, yeah, of course, we're not hitting 17 inches and we're not hitting low and high. We have to sit zones. But I'm saying majority of your amateur pitchers and even in college, you know, majority of pitchers, you're going to, you know, you want to be able to hit in a big area, which comes from staying in the zone as long as possible.
Yep. So now, you know, obviously now that you know that you have to stay inside the ball, the next question is going to be, well, how do I do it? And we already had the question in here. How do I get my 12-year-old son to eliminate casting and rollovers? Is there any specific drills? So that's exactly what we're going to show you. We're going to show you how to stay inside the ball and the drills that we do to teach that movement. Okay. So what I want to do is, let's see, I should have the Mark DeRosa one in here. Where is it? I know I downloaded it.
So while you're finding that, did you find it?
Not yet.
So basically, just to answer your question about rollovers, I mean, that's where hitting's so much fun to me. Like rollovers can come from 2 things. You're either casting the barrel or you're not using your lower half and you're leading with the hands. So for me personally, like if we're trying to clean the bat path up and not worry about the lower half right now, then I would do a top hand drill, you know, where I get the tee and I want to, you know, get a short bat. And I really want to just do a top hand drill and stay up to the middle of the field this way, because that's going to keep them from going around, you know, with 2 hands. A lot of times with 2 hands, kids think roll the wrist, roll the wrist, roll the wrist. You know, that's not what you want to do at contact. You want to be palm up, palm down. You know, I want to get here, and then after extension is when I roll out of it. So top hand drill is really good with that. But I'll tell you one of the best drills, they call it the A-Rod drill, is if I'm standing here, I'm going to put this tee, I'm going to put it on probably about 2 inches on the inner half. So this ball is going to be middle end to end. I'm going to stand in my normal spot. I'm going to put it right on the front edge of the plate so it's deep. And I'm going to hit this ball right back up the middle like this. What that does, it teaches you to overemphasize connection and overemphasize getting those hands inside the ball. That's what this drill teaches. Because even if I working away don't always clean up staying inside the ball. Because you can put a ball away and kids can still get away from their body just because they might not have the concept of how to hit that pitch. You got to teach them how the body works, okay? Connection is everything. Connection sets up staying inside the ball. It's not the hands. It's this getting connected here with my elbow sets up being able to control this bat to stay inside that pitch, okay? So therefore, they call it the A-Rod drill. Put the ball probably 2 inches on the plate, right on the top part of the plate. Stand with your front foot, even with the front part of the plate. And this is where I'm going to be here and hit this ball at the middle. I'm not going to try to pull this pitch. This teaches you to get to connection and drive through the ball with that top hand, palm up at contact and 2 extension.
Yep. And like I said, I know I found the video finally, but whenever I start working with a player, if they're, brand new to me coming here to the cage and hitting, one of the first things that I'll do with them is with one-hand drills, because a one-hander will expose any flaw that you have in your bat path. Okay. Taking this one-hander right here, and if you put the tee on the outer or middle away and you tell them to drive that pitch to the opposite field gap, if they don't get connected and stay inside the ball as their first move, they're never going to be able to drive that pitch to the opposite field gap with backspin like they're supposed to. Okay. So I just wanted to show this video right here of Mark DeRosa. And if you don't know who Mark DeRosa is, he's an MLB analyst, played 17 years in the major leagues. And he talks about one of the biggest success stories that he has with his players is getting them on the one-hander. Okay. So I want to share this video right here with you. So I'll share the screen. Boom.
So the biggest drills that I feel that I've had success with my younger kids is a lot of one-arm. A lot to get them to understand for this. So we have to play Turner Field late on these early 2000s. Sammy Sosa, you were Sammy Sosa was taking flips in the cage, and he was doing one-arm drill. And I went in there, didn't know he's in there to hit off the tee. Started talking to me, and I asked him what he was thinking. He goes, for a right-handed hitter, the bottom, this has to be your steering wheel. Like, you have to take this to the baseball. This has to be a part of your swing. And then my top hand puts it in the parking lot. That's my pattern. What you see a lot of young kids do is this is irrelevant. This just is pulled across their chest, and it's, I got to get the barrel there now. So my biggest success stories for kids to get them to understand how to hit the ball up the middle the other way is to eliminate this hand. I've talked to Kevin Youkilis about this. The reason he did all of this is because he was so top hand dominant that he hooked everything as a little kid. And he almost wanted to take this off until the last second so it didn't dominate his swing. So I take all my hitters and I get them to understand this bottom hand, this one-hand drill, and kind of moving the ball up the middle, right center, inside, uncomfortable, away. And once they start to incorporate this bottom hand into their swing, it comes a lot quicker. The back head kind of cleans up, and you can start to focus on other things. That's been some of I've been doing that with my son since he was, 2. And you're trying to create lag, Wes, right? You're trying to create that, like almost like a catapult, like coming through. You don't want that.
No.
And you know what I'm saying? So that was always my biggest thing. How do you create lag and give your barrel? You hear all these young guys talk about in the current game, my barrel's in the zone for an extended period of time, which they're not lying. So how do you get it there, right? You don't just drop it there. I think it's more of a play where this hand starts to take your barrel.
Right.
The bat head replaces your hands, right? That's what they used to tell me all the time. Bat head will replace your hands. So take my hands there.
Perfect point. That's a great.
So Wes, you hear that right there. What's your thoughts?
So that's what it goes back to. Some people use the word bat lag, the lag of the bat. I always say delay the barrel. If you watch, like when Mark was talking about it, if you watch, he's like, you want to see this. It's almost like your bat's pointing straight backwards. Even though I've started to fire my hip and my hands are coming forward, my bat is not yet coming with my hands. Like, I'm sorry, not my bat. The barrel is not coming with my hands yet.
Yep.
I go back. The eyes are going to tell the barrel where to go. So if I start here, I have the delaying or the lag of the barrel. I see the pitch. Now my top hand, like you said, my top hand, boom, takes it straight to the ball. And that's how we drive the ball with a proper bat path and also palm up at contact, which you'll hear me say over and over. That's how we backspin balls, line to line. We want to backspin it. Right field line, we want to backspin it. Left field line. And that's what Mark's talking about. I always tell people this. Miguel Cabrera, I did a video for a high school one time, and I got them to understand because they just continually, they wanted to go get the ball. They wanted to think, all right, barrel. I got to get the barrel there. You know, I got to get there. I got to get there. I'm like, let me show you something. I showed them a video. I can't remember who Miguel was facing. It was like a 96 mile an hour fastball in Detroit. And the camera was from the back of the pitcher looking into home plate. So it's going to be kind of like me here. I paused Miguel Cabrera right there. Okay, I'll show you from this angle. Right here. I paused the video. The ball was literally 3/4 of the way to the plate. Okay, 3/4 of the way to the plate. So you got to think about that. I'll go 2/3. So if the mound's 60 foot 6 inches, you're looking at 30 feet away. All right. I mean, I'm sorry, 20 feet away. So the ball is 20 feet from home plate. I paused that. This is a 96 mile an hour fastball. I asked everybody in the room, I said, if I hit play, you look at Miguel Cabrera's bat, it's right here. His hip is going, his hands, he's connected, but his bat is straight back almost. I said, is he going to hit this pitch? 100% of those players said, no way he's hitting that pitch. I said, all right, sit back and watch. I hit play. That ball went from 20 feet to his bat. Right when I hit play, it went like this. His barrel went to the ball in a snap of a finger, and he hit that ball about 450 feet, probably just to the right of center field fence. So I asked the guys in the room, I said, do you understand what I'm trying to tell you every day at practice? The eyes tell the barrel where to go. You don't have to force the barrel. Getting to connection, letting this get there properly, even though the bat's delayed. If I get to this position, my eyes tell the barrel where to go in a split second. Then they started understanding, wow, I do not have to throw the barrel at the ball. I'm like, there you go. All you have to do is trust it. But so many young hitters especially, they're scared that the ball's going to beat them. The ball's going to beat them. They're not going to get the barrel there. That's one of the hardest things to get into a kid's mind is the barrel will get there. It will get there. I promise you, if everything before that works properly. So that's what Mark was saying. This drives it. This delivers it. And if we think like that in our training, which is what we teach at CamWood, everything else will fall into place if you master this in practice.
Yep, that's the main thing is even whenever I do the drills and I'm working with my players, I tell them to focus on the first move. So I'll come back here. So this drill right here, the one-hand drill with the bottom hand, this is going to teach you how to get connected right away and be able to have that proper bat path and get the proper extension through the ball, okay? So whenever I set this tee up to do this drill, because I am using a one-hander, I'm not putting this on the outside part of the plate. I'm putting this right in the middle or a little bit middle away if I'm a little bit bigger of a guy. Me, I'm 6'4", I have a little bit more of a wingspan, so I'll itch it out a little bit to where it's kind of middle away, okay? So what I always tell my players is focus on that first move, okay? Where the hands go, the barrel will follow, okay? So whenever I'm doing this drill, I'm just worried about that first move in my hands, okay? So whenever I get in my stance here, I want to make sure that my first move is this elbow right here going straight down this white line towards the pitcher, all right? So if I focus as a hitter that my first move is just boom, right there, I'm going to get connected right away, and now my knob is able to follow on that path down the line, and then my barrel is naturally going to follow through the zone right here, right on the sweet spot, and I'll get the proper extension through that ball with good backspin to the opposite field gap. Okay. And the reason I love one-hand drills is because if you come out away from your body, you come around this ball at all, you're going to top this and you're going to hit it right back up the middle, or you're going to have that slice on the ground to opposite field, which we don't want. Whenever we do this drill, we want to get connected first, stay inside that ball, and get the proper backspin through it to the opposite field gap. All right. That's one of the top drills that I'll do with my players. And that is exactly what Mark DeRosa was just saying that he does with a lot of his youth kids. All right. So other than another point that I want to hit on, this is something that Chipper Jones talks about. So that's the one-hand drill. Say I'm using a bigger bat. Okay. I'm using my hands and speed trainer. If I'm hitting off the tee here and I have this pitch set up middle away, whenever I hit this to teach myself how to stay inside the ball, everybody has heard the term hit the inside part of this ball, right? I want to hit the inside part of this ball to drive it to the opposite field gap. All right, well, if I'm sitting here focused on hitting the inside part of this ball, what's going to happen? I'm so fixated on that ball, this knob's going to go out away from my body to the inside part of that ball. It's going to force me to force that barrel and come around the ball, right? So the main thing I want to tell my players is whenever we're hitting off the tee to teach how to stay inside the ball, make sure that your direction is towards the pitcher, okay? Because that's where the ball is coming from in game, okay? So if I'm hitting off the tee and I'm working on driving the outside pitch to opposite field gap, I'm not worried about this ball on the tee. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused in my direction to the pitcher, okay? So if I get in my stance right here, I load, boom, I'm focused on getting connected and driving towards the pitcher first. All right, I'm connected, I'm driving to the pitcher, and then the barrel will naturally follow through that zone, and I'm perfectly on the inside part of that ball. I'll get the proper extension through it. Okay, so when we're hitting off the tee, don't worry about this ball on the tee. Have the direction towards the pitcher, and it'll help you stay inside that ball a lot better. All right. Does that make sense, Wes?
That's a good point. No, that's a really good point. You explained it really well.
All right. So now, so it's talking about another thing I want to hit on is what Chipper always says is the line on the mat, right? So whenever I'm doing this drill, I'm just focusing on taking my knob or taking my elbow and that knob down the white line right here on this mat. So whenever I tell players that, they come to me and they say, well, what if I don't have this type of mat at home? Well, just put something down here. Do duct tape, do string, any type of visual that you can to really focus on taking that elbow and this knob right down that line. Boom, right there down that line. It allows me to stay inside the ball. All right.
I mean, we talk about it over and over, change, our direction, staying inside the ball. Every hitter at an elite level that has success does that. And I promise you that's what they do. And that's their whole mindset. That's their whole approach because they trust it. And that I go back to that. You have to trust it. You have to understand the barrel will get there. And Chipper, explains it perfect. I mean, you let the ball travel. You think, I'm going to stay inside the ball. I'm driving the ball to the big part of the field. And, like I go, there's a company out there now that teaches ABC, anything but center. They want pull side fly balls in the air. They want pull side air. Well, that's not going to work against elite pitching because big part of the field makes your direction go right back where it came from. So therefore, it's going to clean your path up. It's going to be able for you to hit center. It's going to enable you to hit pull side, and it's also going to enable you to hit opposite field side. So therefore, when you hear those terms, like, hey, hit the ball in the air on the pull side, I would recommend you walking away from that hitting coach because, yes, you can do that on short toss. Yes, you can do that on even BP. I mean, I could get in there right now and hit every ball in the air to the pull side on BP. But is that going to help me in the game? No, it's not going to help me in the game. I want to have my practice of staying connected, staying inside the ball. I want my practice to be geared to what's going to make me the best player I can be in the game. And that is what I want to end this with before questions is ask yourself this. When I'm working is it going to help me be the best hitter I can be in the game against every level pitcher? I'm not meaning the mediocre pitchers. I mean the elite pitchers as well. Can my cage work, can my practice work and practice on the field, BP, is that going to make me a better hitter in the game? If it's going to make you a better hitter in the game, you're doing something right. If you're doing those things in practice and you're still struggling in the game over time, then you probably need to change the way your approach and your mechanics are off the tee and off front toss. Remember, there's no egos in the cage. There are no egos. We're not trying to hit homers in the cage. We are working on muscle memory. We're working on building proper mechanics. We're working on doing the little things to make our body work the way it's supposed to. So when the game speeds us up, we don't redline and do things we shouldn't. And that's exactly the thought process you have to have behind it.
So now we're on to day number 2 of the Elite Hitting Blueprint. So day number 1, obviously we went over approach and we went over the bat path. So the proper thing that you're supposed to be thinking about while you're doing your tee work, while you're in game, in at bats, of the look away to drive away and react to inside. We don't want to be someone that is a dead pull hitter because it's going to limit the amount of time that the barrel in the sweet spot of our bat is in the hitting zone. Okay, so we talked about that with the approach, and we talked about bat path on the first movements that you want to make whenever your swing starts. You want to get connected first, stay inside the ball, because that's going to allow you to drive the ball to all parts of the field with power. Okay, so now that we talked bat path and we talked approach, now we want to get into one of the key aspects of the swing, which is the lower half. And as I go around to these different tournaments, me and Wes go from tournament to tournament on the weekends. And whenever we're watching players, we see not a lot of players in today's game understand how to use the lower half properly. Okay, so it's one of the most, I would say, a lot of people get the misconception about the lower half and how to use it. So obviously, Wes is going to come in. Wes played 12 years in the major leagues, and he really specializes on the lower half. So Wes is going to dig deep into the lower half stuff today. And whenever we get done with the live today, you'll have a really good understanding of how to load properly, how to get grounded, how to get separation, and the proper sequence of the swing, okay? How the lower half fires first, and then the hands follow through, and then you get the proper extension, okay? So you're going to get an all-around understanding of the full swing after we're done with today's live. All right. So as we're talking and as we're going through, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section and we will answer questions as we go. Okay. So we're going to make sure everybody's questions are answered before we get off the live today. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the lower half here, Wes. So first question I would ask you, what is the role of the lower half?
That's a great question. So basically the role of the lower half, I always like to say two things. It creates stability. I don't like to use the word balanced. Let me explain this. Like if I put this bat on my finger and balanced it, I could probably hold it there for a while, but eventually that thing is going to start wiggling, if I start moving some or whatever. So it's not stable. It's balanced. Stability means I am in the ground and I have tremendous balance. I have stability. I'm not moving all over the place. So the first thing would be stability. The next thing is the lower half is what drives the top hand and drives the force through the ball to be able to hit the ball with the maximum exit velocity you can possibly hit on that pitch at that given time if you hit it on the sweet spot and you barrel it. So I always tell people, like we talked about yesterday, the bottom hand starts it, it drives it. The top hand puts it in the parking lot, like Mark DeRosa said. Well, the back hip is what drives the top hand to be able to do that. And that's what we're going to talk about today, as we get going.
Yep. So, you talk about, obviously, the lower half maximizes the amount of force and the blow to the baseball, right? And the lower half, for me, I like to tell people, I tell a lot of the players too, that the lower half puts your body in the proper position to allow your hands to stay inside the ball, okay? Because if your lower half isn't there, especially on the inside pitch, there's no way your hands are going to be able to fight inside. And that's why a lot of youth players that don't really understand how to use that lower half, they roll over a lot of pitches, all right? And what I mean by that is if I come right here with this tee, if I'm trying to hit this outside pitch right here, right? So if I'm hitting that outside pitch, my lower half doesn't have to rotate as much as on the inside pitch, okay? So whenever I'm hitting that outside pitch, I don't have to rotate as far to allow my hands to stay inside that ball, right? But this inside pitch, if I don't get enough rotation, say I get the same rotation as the outside pitch, well, now my hands can't fight inside that inside ball, right? They can't fight inside. So that move is going to force me to come out away from my body and come around that inside pitch as opposed to staying inside it and driving it to the left center field gap. All right. So a lot of players that don't really understand how to use that lower half properly, they roll over a lot to the third base side because they don't get the complete and full rotation to allow the hands to stay inside the ball to drive it to the left center field gap.
So basically, just to hit on what Trey said, so basically, here's the way you got to look at it. If a player uses their lower half the right way, then it allows them to have perfect direction to the ball, no matter where the pitch is. It allows me to have direction the way I want to and not come off the ball. Because if we don't use our lower half the right way, the first thing we have to do is use more upper body, because that's what our bodies are used to. Our mind is not going to know how to function without a lower half working. So therefore, it's going to tell our body when we swing, if I just stand straight up, I'm going to have to swing and I'm going to come out. But if I'm using my lower half, I can stay with direction north this way. I don't want direction east to west, okay? Rotation happens naturally. I don't want to force it. The back hip, being grounded, everything with the lower half is what allows our upper half to do what it's supposed to do. Even though we isolate bottom hand, we isolate top hand, we do isolation drills, and we do hand drills. Yeah, we have to do that to build that muscle memory, but the lower half is what allows all that to work when we're in the game facing, like I said, velo, spin, change of speeds, or whatever. I always use this terminology. If I built a house, am I going to build the roof first or go from roof to the foundation, or am I going to build the foundation first and go to the roof? A great built house has a strong foundation. That's what builds the strength of that house. So that's no different than sports, basketball, football, baseball, whatever sport you play, everything starts from the ground up. But people don't think about it that way. People think, I'm holding a bat in my hand, I'm just going to think upper body, or I'm holding a glove, I'm just going to think hands. That's not the way it works. It always starts with the feet and goes up. So that's what we're going to get into today.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of players, they have the misconception of like kind of the proper sequence of the swing, especially a lot of youth players, and even me in high school. I would want to start with my hands before my lower half fired. And as you know now, you want that to be the opposite. You want the lower half to fire first, because that allows the hands to be in the proper position to deliver the blow to the baseball. So Wes, talk about the proper sequence of the swing first, and then we'll start going into step by step on how to do each part.
Okay, so basically the proper sequence of a swing, I mean, you know, we want to load on time. Of course, every pitcher, we talked about it yesterday, every pitcher, you might load at break, you might load as they get to their front foot. If it's a slower pitcher, that could take forever talking about. But being on time is the first thing. What I mean is when we load, I want to start the movement so that I can get to the hitting position on time to be able to connect with that ball at the strongest contact point. I don't want to get beat. I don't want to get too far out front. So that being said, the proper sequence is when I load and separate and I get into my, I'm going to back up just a tad. When I get into my legs here, okay, I'm on the ground. The back knee and hip is what fires first, which then drives the hands. So it's not hands and hip together. It's not hands, then hip. I'm going to get to this position, my launch position. The back knee and the back hip drive, and it doesn't rotate. I'm not squashing the bug. I'm putting my force toward my front leg. I'm hitting against my front leg. I always use that term, hitting against my front side. I get my force going this way. That's called weight shift. No, that's not called coming forward. We are not coming forward because our front leg is allowing us to stay behind the ball. I'm not getting over my front side. I'm hitting against my front side. Even though I'm shifting my weight from my back hip my knee, I'm shifting it, okay? There, the hip knee, slightly before the hands. And as I get to that point, it gears my rotation to drive the top hand through the ball at contact and extension. When my back hip and my back knee drive toward my front foot, it actually is pushing my front foot into the ground.
Yep.
And that's the problem I see with so many hitters, especially high school down. They are not grounded when they swing. They're just spinning. They're basically firing and spinning like this. Their front foot is not going into the ground to create force, which two things are going to happen. You're going to be around the ball consistently, and you're not getting maximum force into the ball. I was with a high school kid this week helping a team. The coach blew his Achilles out. They asked me to come help with some reps to fill in for a day. The best player on the team, football player, strong as an ox, can absolutely crush a baseball. He only uses his upper body because he's used to the aluminum bat, the drop 10s to the drop 5s, and now even the BB cores now aren't BB core. I don't care what anybody says. They're still weapons. They're not what they used to be. Balls are jumping off BB cores like they used to on the old metal bats. They have changed it. So he's getting away with just using his upper body because he's so strong and he's using metal. But then when we did work the other day, I put a wooden bat in his hand and I said, hey, let me throw to you. I want to show you something. And literally he could not drive a ball at all with that wooden bat because he didn't understand how to stay in his legs and behind the ball. All he was doing was swinging and going like this with his upper body.
Yep.
That will catch up with him against elite pitching. And this is a kid that probably could have been a D1 player, but he had to settle for JUCO, which in my opinion is not a bad thing. But what I'm trying to say is he is not getting the most out of what his ability is because he's not using his lower half. So that's why it's so important when everything works and we're driving our force into the ground, then it drives our top hand the way it should to absolutely nuke balls the way they're supposed to be hit.
Yep. And that was also one of the biggest problems that I had. You know, I came there to Wes's in Birmingham whenever we refilmed our All-American Part 1 program. And Wes literally told me, he was like, you do not get grounded. You do not use your legs properly. So we actually started doing drills and he taught me kind of how to do it. And I was like, one of the things that resonated with me, Wes, and, you know, I want to get into the whole grounding part of the swing first.
Yes.
But one thing that you told me was whenever I get into my stance, you want to make sure that you're just like drilled and you're screwed into the ground. So what you told me to do was when I got in my stance to flex my quads, right? So whenever I get into my stance, I flex my quads, I am just drilling myself into the ground because that's how you're going to be able to get grounded right away and get that max force with your lower half. So Wes, kind of talk about what it means to be grounded and also how to do it.
Okay, and that's a good point, Trey, talking about flexing your quads. That's another thing I tell young players. I see them in the weight room, you know, they're constantly squatting, you know, squatting, you know, lunging, deadlift, and they're so strong. First thing I ask them is, why do you do all that work in the weight room if you're not using your legs hitting? I don't understand, because what you're doing in the weight room is doing nothing for you if you don't use it in your swing or whatever you're doing on the field. So I like to use that with kids. Like, wait a minute, we're training to get strong with our lower half, but we're not using it. So let's start thinking about that. So the biggest thing with the lower half is, you know, when we talk about it, I always tell people this: when my front foot hits, okay, I'm not going to land on my heel. No one strides and lands on their heel. Okay, if you stride and land on your heel, then we got to change something with, you know, separation and getting to the stride. But majority of all your players, you'll see at the lower levels especially, they're going to land on the ball of their foot. And what I tell players is, when the back heel comes off the ground, the front heel drives through the ground. So it's like, if I'm back here, if you can see me, can you see me, Trey?
I can see you.
Okay. So if I'm back here, in my front foot, I'm on the ball of my foot, and I'm getting ready to fire, my back heel, when my my back knee, back hip drive, my front heel goes back Back heel up, front heel down. Back heel up, front heel down. What that does, it pushes the force into the ground with my front foot so I stay behind the ball. And when I drive this as hard as I can, like this, you see, I'm not coming over my front side. What that does, if you see a lot of kids, they push. When they drive their back leg, they push up. That's getting over their front leg. We want to get the front heel in the ground and drive our back hip, and our front foot is driving, literally going in the ground to where we can't move forward, and all of our force is going behind the baseball. That's how we hurt balls. That's how you will put the maximum force that your strength will allow you to hit a ball. For smaller kid, middle, big kid, that you need to be able to learn to get the most force into the ball, and that's how you do it.
Yep. And you made a good point there, especially with youth players, is they always like to push off.
Yes.
We'll come right here. So they like to get in their load and then they push off of that back foot as opposed to driving with the inside part of their knee. I'll move right here. So whenever you load, you want all that tension to be on the inside part of your knee. And whenever your lower half starts, we're not pushing to get that weight transfer. We're driving from the inside part of this knee. So it's boom, it's the knee first. It's not pushing. It's the knee that drives towards the pitcher.
So you see right there, do that again, Trey. Watch his, if I drew a straight line from his knee, okay, when he drives it down, boom, that direction would go from his knee to his front foot, knee to his front foot. It would not be up. It would not be straight. That knee is driving down to the front foot to be able to ground, and then the hip rotates. So it's a little bit of weight shift. All that does is get you grounded on the front side, gives you a strong front side. Then the rotation, the tight turn. I like to use the word tight turn, not rotation, because a tight turn means I'm staying connected. Rotation means this. I like to say tight turn because I'm turning with connection. I'm naturally rotating and with my tight turn to deliver the barrel. And that was good, Trey, because you want to see that line going down. I want to see, if you can see me back here, I want to see this motion, not that motion. I don't want to go up.
And that's the key thing. Like I said, you want to make sure when you make that drive, think about it. Like whenever I used to do my drills, I'm thinking of driving from the inside part of my knee. Okay. Yep. We're not pushing. Like Frank used to always tell me, it's like you have an egg under your foot. You don't want to push off with your foot and crack that egg. You want to drive with the inside part of the knee, not the foot.
Exactly.
So, and that's the next thing you also hit on was the rotation too, was you have to understand that the first move in the swing is the knee drive, and then the hip rotates. Okay. We're not just spinning off the ball and just rotating. You have to have that knee drive first to get that weight shift, to get that momentum going back through the ball. And then the hip is going to rotate, and then the hands are going to follow through on line, on path. You're going to get that proper extension. All right.
On that note, this will kind of clean up some questions I get asked. Is hitting linear or rotational? It's both. And it goes back to when I get here, it's linear when I start, and then it becomes rotational as my back hip delivers my barrel. And then once I get here, I'm linear again, and then I rotate out of it. So it's both. You have linear and rotational throughout the swing, and that's the proper way to be as direct as you can be to the ball, which we all want to do.
And that's the thing is, I want to iterate this. A lot of people out there right now are teaching that with the rotation of the swing, they want you to rotate with your upper body. They want to rotate with the upper body because it's going to get the bat in the zone right away. But that's not how we want to do it. All right. The rotation in the swing is going to happen naturally. The rotation from the upper body is going to happen naturally. All right. The rotation in the swing is going to come from the lower half. Okay. So whenever I'm hitting, when I'm thinking rotation, I'm thinking rotation with my back hip, and then my shoulders and my upper body are going to stay square, but it's the hip that's rotating. My hip's rotating, not my upper body. Okay. I'm not pulling off with my upper body. I'm rotating with that back hip. And players that like to pull off and rip off of that upper body, They're going to get into the zone right away at contact. They're going to come straight out, and they're going to cut across the ball. All right. That's why a lot of players right now can't properly backspin balls to the pull side. And when they do hit it to the opposite field, it slices. Okay. They're not able to drive it to the opposite field. All it is slapped and sliced to the opposite field because they're cutting across that ball instead of staying down and driving through it.
So basically, I want to go also, Trey, like what you're talking about. If we don't have a strong front side, that's what allows our front hip and our front shoulder to over rotate. If you watch Trey's hip, go back there, Trey, and drive your back hip. So if you watch Trey's back hip, it goes first and it naturally rotates the front hip. People always watch hitters, and I've seen coaches out there say, I want you to rotate that front hip and show the belly button as quick as possible. And I'm like, good luck if somebody with a nasty slider down the way, because you're not going to hit it.
Correct.
So therefore, yeah, you're going to hit certain pitches with that approach. But like I said yesterday, we want to be a complete hitter. We want to be able to do damage on any pitcher that's on the mound that day. So remember this, the back hip, okay, if it's a strong front side, which is what we want, the back hip drives my top hand and it drives my front hip to open up naturally, because we are going to open up. We're going to open up and rotate. My shoulder and my elbow are going to come this way, but it's going to happen naturally. The back hip is what drives it. But if I let my front side do it before my hip, that's when I over rotate out of the swing. It's when I roll over balls. That's actually when I hit lazy flies balls to the opposite field, and I can't command the outer part of the plate consistently.
Yep. And that's the thing is Frank always used to tell me, there's no hips in the swing. There's one hip. It's the back hip. So whenever I'm hitting, I always just focus on this back side, this back hip. I don't worry about this. The front hip just happens naturally. So whenever I start, I'm focusing back here, and that's where that rotation in the swing is going to come from, that back hip.
All right, real quick, Sid asked, thanks, Sid, any drills to help with driving the knee? That's what's inside our program. We redid our All-American Part 1 program to incorporate the lower half, because when it was originally done, it was mostly upper half, had some lower half drills, but we kind of went in and dug deeper into, all right, what's going to resonate with all ages from 6 years old all the way up to the pros if they do this program. So that's where I came in with Trey and was like, look, here's what we need to do. So there are the drills, Sid, in that All-American Part 1 now. It's been updated. It's been updated now for months. And that's what we recommend is everybody get in that program. It's 30 days. You get the coaching from CamWood. Like, get in there and, upload videos into the app, upload videos on the Facebook group. The CamWood account will be giving you response and critiquing your swing and walking you through it. So that's what I recommend. Real quick, my son tends to sometimes roll over with his back foot sometimes instead of rotating the foot. Great question. His knee still drives properly, but he is losing power control. Okay, so here's the thing about that. When you do your back knee drive and your back hip properly, it all depends on mobility in the human. Some people have better mobility. Some people don't. Some people are going to have more force driven from their backside than others. That's just human nature. We can't all be at that elite level, but we can be the best we can be, which is going to take us as far as we can in this game. And what I tell people, if you got a kid that is rotating on that back foot, squishing the bug, and falls out of that, he's not hitting again, or she is not hitting against the strong front side. The strong front side, I'm telling you, a strong front side is one of the most important things in hitting. It creates stability. So therefore, if I'm here I'm hitting again, I should feel so much tension in the outer part of my quad and that front hip flexor. Even though I'm rotating, when my back hip fires and this rotates, I feel that tension in my quad. I'm fighting with my front leg to stay behind it. Therefore, I'm staying like this. It creates stability, which is going to keep you from over rotating with your back leg. That's the first step. Also, do not get caught up into, you have to get that front back leg completely rotated. Do not. Because I'm telling you right now, some of the best hitters ever played this game at any level, high school, down, college, professionally, they get here. I'll show you like this. And they go, and they actually have so much force, their back foot doesn't over rotate. It actually pushes into the ground or slides. And I've played with players their back foot come off the ground because they've had so much force against that front leg. So really focus on if your son or daughter is over rotating that back foot. It's more probably of a directional thing. Just teach them that back knee drive, but also make sure they're grounded on that front side because that's going to keep them from falling out of that rotation on their backside.
Yep. So I know I had that problem too. Like whenever you worked with me, you know, whenever I landed, my front foot would land open. Right here, I'll come back here so you can see. So whenever I would land, I would be boom right here. I'd be open to allow my hips to clear early, but I didn't have anything to fight against on that front side. So what you would have, what you had me do was I would get in my stance and I would load and I would stop and make sure that my foot is staying closed. I'm not opening it up, right? So I'm right here, stop, check, make sure I'm good, and then fire.
Yeah, bring it. Look, there's nothing wrong with breaking things down to an elementary level. I always use this term, dumb it down.
Yep.
Let's dumb it down to the most minor level so we can understand this. And loading and stopping, pausing, checking everything, firing from that position. Everything we do is creating muscle memory in our mind. You got to understand, it's a habit. Everything we do is a habit. It becomes a habit, either good or bad. We do it the wrong way, bad habit. We do it the right way, good habit. That's everything in life, physical, mental, everything. Everything becomes a habit. So therefore, when we train off the tee, short toss, you have to really, really focus on the smallest detail, okay? Because I always tell kids, I want you to load, stride, stop, check, fire from there. Go from there. We're not doing any extra movement. They are training their mind to know how their body is working, because the ultimate goal is when we step in the batter's box, we have that pitcher on the mound. The only thing we have to think about is being on time and getting a pitch we can drive. That's the only two things you think about in the game. You do not think about anything else. That's why it's so important in practice. When we work on lower half and we work on everything, it's so important to do it correctly. Do it 10 times correctly instead of 50 times and you get tired and it's not correct. Really focus on the quality, not the quantity of it.
Yep. So we just focused a lot on grounding right there. So now let's move into the next pieces of the swing, which is the load and the separation. So Wes, if you can talk a little bit about how you want to load your back hip properly and not overcoil.
So basically, everybody loads different. Everybody, I mean, you can have a wider stance, you can have a narrow stance, you can have a leg kick, you can have a toe tap, whatever. That's fine. That's individual. There's no right or wrong on any of it. As long as they have stability and they're on time, I'm fine with any of that. Whatever rhythm a player needs to do personally, if it works, don't fix it. Let them be themselves. The only time I'm going to talk about changing a load is if I feel like, you know, somebody's not getting separated well, or they're turning too much, or they're not turning enough. I mean, because we don't want to just be straight back and forth. We want to be able to sink into the hip, which is what I'm going to talk about now. So that being said, I'm going to move this tee. It's in the way. All right. So basically, I'm going to put this down a little bit so you can see me. And so basically, what we want to think about when we load, I always say I got a credit card right here. Okay, I'll come a little closer. I got a credit card right here. So when I load, I want to pinch that credit card. I want to pinch my hip flexor and my oblique. Pinch it, okay? And you saw I naturally turned. I did not turn my upper body in. I don't want to do this, okay? I don't want to over-rotate my upper body to get into the back hip. Think, pinch the back hip. See how my upper body sunk into it and it naturally rotated a little bit. That is getting into the launch position. If you think about it like a snake or a cat, A snake's going to coil up before it strikes. A snake can't strike from a straight position. It has to go like this, boom. That's no different than this. A cat has to sink into its legs to jump. That's what you have to start thinking about. I'm going to here, sink. I'm going to sink into my back hip. Sink there. That's all I'm doing. Then when I stride, I want to feel a stretch. Okay? When I stride, I want to feel a stretch that way. Okay? I want to feel my body stretching from my hands to my front foot. I want to feel that stretch this way. Wait. Is that dang camera's backwards? All right.
You go the other
So
way.
I want to feel a stretch this way. Okay? I want to feel this motion. So I want to go there. I want to feel all this tighten up, my core. When I sink into my hip, stretch, I want to feel all this. I want to walk away from my hands. So my hands go away from my foot. Okay? And what I mean is, if I had a rubber band, it's going to stretch, like I said. Okay? There. And then from there, I can maximize my drive. So think about it. Sink into the hip, credit card pinch. There. And then I walk away from my hands to create tension in here. That is the stretch position. Don't force it. Let it naturally happen. Do not force the rotation getting into the hip. It naturally happens. Don't go straight back, straight forward. We sink, stretch. That is all you have to think about. It's very simple, very minor, but it puts you in the most powerful position.
Yep. And you talk about the separation part, and a lot of players try to force that separation, which is a no-no. Okay. Whenever you get in your stance, you don't want to push that arm back, right? Like you can lock that lead elbow out. I see a lot of players do that. They force their hands back. But whenever I'm in my swing, like I said, I load with that lower half, and the separation for me starts whenever my hands go back. Whenever my foot goes forward, my hands stay back. That's what's going to create that separation for me and that tension that Wes is talking about. So I get in my stance, I load. So we load, and then boom.
Stop right there, Trey. All right, look at his knob. You see where his knob is? Okay, everybody's going to be different with this. You want to think also on your separation, even though we're talking about lower half. I always like to say this. You want to, his knob's pointing toward the catcher. Okay? Now, let me explain this. You cannot try to hit like big leaguers at a young age. You're not strong enough. You're not a physical specimen yet. You have to learn the fundamentals first. And as you get stronger, you can create your own way. Because I tell people that the first thing they say is, what about Ronald Acuna? I'm like, you're not Ronald Acuna, first of all. And second of all, Ronald Acuna stands here and he goes like this. He doesn't get the knob to the catcher. Well, guess what? He's an exception to the rule, guys and girls. He's an exception. He is strong. He has unbelievable body control. He has fast twitch muscles. He has so much power and force. He can drive into the ball. He has learned that over all those years of experience. High school down, we can't do that. I'm telling you, every hitter I've ever seen, when they get loaded and separated, if they're like this, the only way they can come out of that is over-rotate with their upper body or push, which we don't want to do. When I get knob to the catcher, I can work this way with the back leg and the back hip. So even though we're talking about lower half, that's an important rule to remember, because that allows the lower half to do what it's supposed to do, because it puts your hands in the right position so you don't over-rotate or push.
Yep. So just a quick little recap here. All right. So first thing you want to do is make sure you get grounded. All right. Like Wes told me, make sure my quads are flexed and I'm drilling myself into the ground here. All right. And then the next step of that is going to be our load, right? So whenever we load, we want to pinch with this back hip right here, like Wes was saying, the credit card. So we load, boom, we get that separation. And then the very first move from here is the drive from the inside part of the knee. All right. Whenever I load, I should feel all that tension on the inside part of my leg. All right. I'm not going over. I'm feeling that tension right here. And whenever I start my drive, it's the knee first, that knee drives, and then the hips are going to rotate, and then the hands follow through the zone. All right. And as you see right there, my hands follow through, and that contact, from there, you want to learn how to get the proper extension. You want to stay on that path through extension. All right. A lot of players today, they get to that point of contact and they want to just rotate off of that ball and cut across it, as opposed to getting to that contact and staying through that ball. All right. So Wes, talk a little bit about extension. Once you get to the point of contact, how do you get the proper extension to drive the ball to all parts of the field with power?
All right. So I like to use this terminology. In professional baseball, we always used to say it's easier to get to the big leagues. It's harder to stay there. That's so true. Everybody's always hard to get to the big leagues. Yeah, it's hard to get to the big leagues, but it's easier to get there. It's harder to stay there because the competition, the athletes, every day it's the best players on the field, and you got somebody in AAA trying to open your door. So, and push you out and all that. So staying in the big leagues is the hardest thing. I use that with extension. Getting to the ball, to me, is one of the easiest things. Every kid is going to take the bat to the ball, okay? Which to me is one of the most underrated stats in baseball. Bat to ball skills is the most important thing any kid can learn at any age, is barrel accuracy. The more higher percentage I can barrel balls, the better hitter I'm going to be. So getting to the ball is easy. Staying there is hard. That's what kids don't get. Staying on plane with extension is hard. I get to the ball, easy. Staying on plane through the ball about probably, I always say 8 to 10 inches, 6 to 12 inches, whatever. I mean, you want to get through. If this is contact, I want to get to it, and I want to stay through it on the same plane as I got to the ball. That is called extension. Extension is not away from your body. Extension is when I get to the ball, I'm going to stay right back where my most powerful position is, big part of the field. No matter if it's away, middle, in. My direction is going to be to it and through it. Use that word every stinking day. To it, through it. Inside. To it, through it. Okay? You don't want to get to a point where you get to the ball and come out of your swing. And I'm telling you, that's where the top hand is your best friend. The hip, back knee and hip drives the top hand. Okay, that's why we do bottom hand, top hand drills. The top hand staying palm up at contact, palm up to about, like I said, 6 to 12 inches, and then rotate out. That is your best friend, and that is probably one of the most highest percentage flaws of every amateur hitter, is they struggle with extension. But two things. Strong lower half helps with that, because hitting against that front side doesn't allow your front shoulder to come out too early, because I'm strong in my front side, so it's not allowing me to come out. But the top hand through the ball as far as you can, you will start to see a huge difference on how you drive the baseball with backspin to all parts of the field.
Yep. And one of the big things with extension too is one of the reasons you want to get good extension, because if you get to that contact point, well, that's if your timing is absolutely perfect, right?
Yes.
That's if you just square up a ball 100%, boom, I'm right there. But what happens those other 90% of at bats whenever your timing is just off? If you're just a little bit out front, if you get the proper extension, well, now you're still able to catch that ball out front, okay? So that pitch that might be right down the middle that I normally, boom, I'm right back up the middle with it. If I have the proper extension and I'm a little bit full out front, well, now I'm catching that ball just a little bit more out front. I'm still barreling that, and that's going to left center instead of center field. And I'm still able to get that power and drive that pitch to left center field gap, even though I'm out front.
That's a good point, Trey. Let me just tell y'all something. When I started working with Trey, I literally went home that night and told my wife, go buy a case of energy drinks because this is going to take a long time. Like literally, and he was a good hitter. That's the thing I want everybody to understand. Parents, please understand this, please. And I tell high school kids this. I told a high school kid this last year that was a senior. I kept telling him he was doing pretty much really good in high school. I said, if you don't change and listen to me, you will not hit in college. He was going to college. He's in college last year. He was in college. I'm sorry, 2 years ago I told him he was in college last year. And him and his parents just did not want to buy in. They didn't want to buy in because, you know, he's having success in high school and he's having fun. And I get that. That's what it's all about. But when you have a chance to play as far as you can and keep going, there's certain things we have to focus on because I know this. I faced the best pitchers every single day for 12 years. It was a battle every day. And I know what works. And I know what plays to be consistent. So I told the parents this. And I told the kid this. I said, look, don't take this the wrong way, but you're going to struggle when you get to college. And I want you to know that. When you leave here, you're going to struggle. So first of all, have the mindset to know how to handle that. He went and he hit like 110 in the fall at college. He calls me over the Christmas break. He goes, you're right, Wes. I said, I knew you'd call me. I wasn't going to call you. I knew you would call me because I've been friends with their parents forever. They love me to death. I knew they would call me. He called me and I said, all right, you ready to work? He worked his tail off. This fall, he wound up hitting 410 in the fall. And he called me the other day, and I'm not lying. He called me almost crying. He's like, you were right. I said, I almost said his name. I said, I know it works. I know it works in the game. I don't care what works in high school. I don't care what works in the cage. You had a chance to play past high school. We got to train for that. Some high school kids don't have a chance to play past high school. Okay, let's let them have their fun and do their thing. You know, it's fine. We're going to continue to get them better. But when I see a kid that's already committed or a kid that's got a chance to get drafted, my mind immediately switches in. We got to do what it takes to get to play at the next level.
Yep.
And that's what I want y'all to understand with Trey. Trey was also always a great hitter. He had a great college career. He could mash. But he still had flaws. If he would have gotten drafted, he would have struggled. And that's the thing I wanted him to understand. Like, look, you still have flaws. And once we started working, he started realizing how his lower half was like, oh, my God, I can feel that. Well, Finally, once he started getting it, and we have video of it because we did drills, he started absolutely murdering balls. I mean, and he's kind of crippled right now. He's got a bad back. He has, I mean, seriously, like he's older now, got a bad back and everything, and he was nuking balls. And I'm like, look, man, your lower half. If you got a lower half, everything else falls into place. So I want everyone on here today to understand, no matter what talent level, if your kid plays, you know, high school, whatever, everyone probably has a flaw that we need to pay attention to get better, because we want to be able to be as the best we can be and hit the best pitcher on the mound every single day.
Yep, because I was like Wes just said there. You know, I went through my whole high school career, right? Or not high school, college career. I was an All-American in college and didn't use my lower half right. The reason I got to that point was because my hands were good. Like even Wes will say, I stay inside the ball. Like no matter, that was drilled into me from a very early, like whenever I first started working with Frank, it was stay inside the ball, stay inside the ball. So my hands were in a good position. I just didn't know how to maximize my lower half. And then once I went and worked with Wes, this was what, 4 months ago, whenever we did the lower half stuff. And like you were saying, I was crushing balls the moment that we started focusing on how to use that lower half the right way. So the lower half plays a very important part in the swing. And once you understand how to use it properly, it'll take you to that next step.
Yes.
All right.
Real quick, just any question we have that talks about drills, we will. I mean, today we can't really go through all the drills. They're in our All-American program. I mean, literally get in the app. Like I said, we coach you through it, post videos. We help you. That's what it's all about. That's why we have the app, why we have our Facebook group, why we have our All-American programs. We want to develop your son or daughter. The other one right here, I wish this video was in the evening. This video is going to be available to be able to be replayed no matter when. Yep. So if you can't see it live right now, there's going to be it's going to be posted to be able to replay this whenever you can.
Yep. And that's the other thing too. I also want to talk about one of the key components of extension is power. I say power, but it's hitting the ball a long way, right?
Yeah.
So those two things aren't, I mean, yeah, they go together. That's not the exact same thing. So the thing with the extension, if you get the proper extension, that is going to allow you to hit the ball further, okay? Because you're going to get that good drive, that proper backspin that's going to make that ball travel more. All right. One of the keys that Frank did with me was we would go to the field and he would have me hit off the tee, right? We just do regular tee work. So if I pull this over, he set this tee up right here on the back part of the plate. And obviously this ball is beating me, right? I'm hitting this ball deep on the plate. So I'm right here, boom. You see the flight of the ball. It doesn't go very far, right? So then Frank would itch the tee up. So he moves the tee up a little bit further. All right, now my contact point is a little bit further out front. You see the flight of the ball. You see the ball goes a little bit further, right? So then he moves the tee even further up in front of my stance. So now my contact point is way more out front. And guess what I saw there? The ball went further than the other two, right? So one of the keys to hitting the ball a good distance and getting the proper backspin is getting that extension and catching that ball out front, okay? You don't want to catch the ball too far back and handcuff yourself. You want to make sure that you get the proper extension out front to be able to drive balls. And Ken Griffey Jr. said it perfectly on MLB Network. So they asked Ken Griffey Jr., how are you such a good home run hitter? And he said, I wasn't a home run hitter. I was a line drive hitter that got good extension. So Wes, what does that mean to you?
That's a good point. So basically, we train a certain way because the game speeds us up. You've heard me say it over and over, and I'll say that till the day I die. We have to train a certain way because when the game speeds us up, we have to be under control. Okay, because the game is going to speed our movements up. It's going to speed our swing up, everything. I'll give you a good point. I'm on the machine the other day in high school. I had the little Marv balls that are softer because, I don't want to blow these kids up and their parents call me. So I got this thing like 94, which in high school you don't see that much. And I had it probably just above the belly button. And I'm teaching them not, I want them to get here and not drop their shoulder. Everybody was getting in there, swinging as hard as they can, and missing and fouling off straight back, missing. I think we might have had one kid that maybe hit one ball square. So when we kind of got finished, I brought them all together and I said, let me explain something. Just like Ken Griffey Jr. said. Ken Griffey Jr., I played against him. He trained line drive. Miguel Cabrera, line drive. Chipper Jones, line drive. Every player I played with, line drive. They never tried to lift. It was always line drive, okay? So I got these kids together. I said, you know why y'all were missing all these balls, right? And they're like, no. I was like, because you overswung. You were overswinging. They're like, but it's 94. I got to get it going. I'm like, that's your problem. You're training to overswing in practice because you see 94 off the machine. When you get in the game, that's going to escalate 10 times more. Now you really have no chance. So I brought a little lefty in. I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to act like you don't care. And I want you to just think, I'm getting into my legs, and I'm basically just going to play pepper right back off the back of the cage in the middle. And he goes, okay. I said, literally get up there like you don't care. Load, get in your legs, and just play pepper and deliver the barrel straight to the ball. And I'm not making this up. This little dude hit a ball to right center as a lefty that would have probably been about 400 feet in the game. Like, it absolutely was obliviated. Like, everybody was like, what in the world? I said, guys, down, do you get it? He was thinking nice and easy, boom, line drive. But guess what happened? Was his swing nice and easy? They're like, no. Did his back hip drive the way it's supposed to? Yes. The dang speed of the ball sped him up. Just like the game is going to speed you up. So therefore, the way we train is important. All these hitters that have 500-plus home runs, Jim told me, I've talked to him tons until I'm blue in the face about hitting. He never tried to do nothing but hit line drives MVP. And he has 600 homers. or 600 plus. Barry Bonds, same thing. Barry Bonds, boom, 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 boom. Mark McGwire, even though he put on a show in BP, all he tried to do was hit line drives, but his line drives went 450 feet. That's the difference. So understand what we're trying to tell you is extension, back hip extension with a line drive approach is what's going to make you the most complete hitter. Now, as you get stronger and fast twitch muscles start to come into play, as you get older, you hit puberty, that's when the balls start going further and further and further. We're not generating it any other way. And I want y'all to understand it. So that's a good point, Trey.
Yep. So again, just a little recap. Here's the sequence of the swing that we're looking for. Okay. So when we get into our stance here, we want to make sure we're grounded, drill into the ground. We load, boom, to get that separation. And then the back knee, the inside part of the back knee drops first. And then you start to get the rotation. And then the hands follow through the zone. We get to contact point, and we want to make sure that we get the proper extension through it. All right. Stay on that path. Don't pull off. Get to contact and stay through it. Okay. Because that's how you're going to maximize your force and your blow to the baseball. It's going to make you a lot more powerful. All right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is exit velocity. We're going to show you the easiest way to increase your exit velocity. I've done this with a lot of the players. I did it myself about a month or two ago and gained 4 miles an hour in 10 days. And we're going to show that or explain how to increase your exit velocity. That's what everybody wants to do. But before we get into that, Wes has so I'm sharing this right now.
Hold on real quick. Go ahead and get to where you're going, Trey. Let's see. Chris Hammond said, about working with softball girls. Do I teach anything different? No, it's the same swing. I just finished a 6-week program with one of the top high school teams here in Alabama. And it's the same swing. It's just the way they pitch you is different. So therefore the approach in the game is going to be a little different because you got rise, you got drop, you got all kind of different stuff in softball, and the ball's coming from down low. So basically your approach and your sights are different, but my swing and everything, the way it syncs up and everything is the same. So yes, the baseball and softball, and anybody out there that knows both sports will tell you that it is the same swing.
Yep. So before we get into the exit velocity here, Wes obviously has brought up multiple times the 30-day program that we have. So this inside the CamWood app right here, you see we have programs. That's one of the tabs at the bottom, and we have the community for the coaches. But if you go to programs, you'll see our programs right here inside the CamWood app. And if you have access to the All-American program, you click on that right there, and you see the full 30-day plan right here. Okay, day 1 all the way through day 30. That teaches you exactly what we talked about in day 1 and today in day number 2 of the Elite Hitting Blueprint. Okay, it's going to teach you how to use your lower half properly, how to get the proper swing, the proper bat path, get that good extension. That way you're a successful hitter. Okay, and one of the things that we're doing right now with the Black Friday deals that we are running, if you come right here, you see you can get this All-American 30-day program in a package. This is typically something that we pay or that we charge $297 for, but you get all of this, the program plus those 3 bats for just $197. All right. So we have insane Black Friday deals. If you want to learn from me and Wes on how to do this, that's your best bet right there to get inside the program and interact with us inside the CamWood community to make sure you're doing the drills the right way. All right. So now I'm going to get back out of here.
Reiterate that. I want everybody to understand the whole point of you getting the program is not only for you to have the program and the drills and the proper routine for 30 days or whatever, 60 days and however long it goes. It's to get the coaching from CamWood. That's the biggest thing is we take pride in developing. Like we want you to get into the Facebook group, into the app. We want you to be actively posting, asking questions because we can give you a program all day long and tell you to do it. And you still might not get the proper understanding of everything you need. You could have your son or daughter do the program, send us videos. We break it down and say, hey, stay right where you're at, or hey, maybe tweak this just a tad to help you moving forward. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I just put in the chat as well. That CamWood app that you just saw is free inside the App Store. All right, so if you go to your App Store or the Play Store, you can download the CamWood app and get some of our free drills. You'll get access to this right here, this 3-day Elite Hitting Blueprint. Once we're done with day number 3, it's going to be uploaded to the app, and it'll be free for you to be able to access them there as well. So if you just go to the App Store, search CamWood, you'll be able to find the app right there. It's free. All right. So now let's get into exit velocity. All right.
Oh, real quick, Trey, we got a question that says they're going through the All-American Part 1.
Good.
They have access to front toss and to machine work. Yes, I mean, even if you're doing Part 1, do the daily routine for Part 1. Don't skip out. But then, like, if you do want to add some short toss to take regular swings or machine work to take regular, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, the more we do, the better. So but make sure you do everything in that Part 1, the amount of drills off the tee for that given day. Then Part 2 is actually with the ball moving. That's when you get into the front toss and the BP.
That's the thing. Part 1's all tee work because we're teaching you the proper sequence. We're teaching you how to have that proper bat path, how to use your lower half the right way. And whenever the ball starts moving, that's another component to the swing that just kind of throws everything off, right? So we use the tee in Part 1 to make sure the ball's not moving, so our timing is perfect every swing, to make sure that we can just focus on our mechanics first, all right? And then once we get consistent off the tee, you want to transition into a moving ball, which is the Part 2 is all about that. So Part 1 is tee work, fixing those mechanics and teaching the proper way to swing. And then Part 2 is, okay, let's start introducing that moving ball and also doing inside, outside, back up the middle. It's not just outside work like Part 1 is, all right? So exit velocity, Wes. Obviously, everybody right now, that's all they're enamored with. That's all they want to see. They want to see that radar gun if they're a pitcher. They want to see exit velocity numbers if they're a hitter, right? So for you, what is the number one way to increase exit velocity?
First of all, let me say this. Exit velocity has been around since baseball or softball has been created. It has not something new. So we just have the technology now to show it more, like on TV and, computers and all that. But it's been around for everybody. Everybody that's ever played this game wants to hit the ball as hard as they can. That hasn't changed. So going back to your question, Trey, what was your question as far as like what's the number one way to do it?
What's the number one way? So say I'm a new player. I've never seen you a day before in my life. I come to you and I say, I want to maximize my exit velocity in 14 days. What do? What drill do you do?
Overload, underload, which means I'm going to use a heavier bat, which you see right here, the CamWood Hands of Speed Trainer. And then I'm going to use my game bat as the underload. So basically, now we can dig into doing a lighter bat than our game bat. But for me personally, like, especially for hitters that hadn't really like fine-tuned their mechanics yet, you don't want to throw too much at them. I always like to keep the game bat in their hand when we're doing a lot of drills other than the CamWood Hands of Speed Training, when we're really trying to focus on bat path, getting connected, or gaining strength and hand speed. That being said, overload, this is a +12. Our +6 is our youth models, but this is our overload. So I will always recommend, all right, we're doing a certain amount of swings with a heavy bat. All right, certain amount of swings with our game bat. We go 2 and 2, 2 and 2. What that does, it trains our body to feel the weight. Because here's the thing. Go in the weight room. All right, say our game bat is, 100 pounds on a squat rack. And I continue just to go 100 pounds, 100 pounds, 100 pounds, 100 pounds. And I do that for a year. I'm going to get in shape, but I'm not going to get much stronger. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit stronger, not much. I start throwing weight on that bar. And I start doing 120, 140, 150, 160. And I go here. I do drop sets. I go heavy, light, heavy, light. You are going to get really strong. That's no different in swinging a bat. We put this extra weight in our hands, which all of our weight is right above the hands to the knob, which means we can swing this +12 like it's a normal bat, but we're getting the results and the benefits of overload. You put this in your hands, now it's like loading that squat bar. I'm going to get stronger. But the way this is designed, I'm able to swing a heavy bat fast. Because you got to understand this. If I train slow, I'm going to be slow. If I train fast, I'm going to be fast. So we still want to be able to swing the overload fast, or we're actually training ourselves to be slow. That's why this bat's so much better than a +12 game bat, because all the weight's going to be from here down. Kids can't swing it fast, and it's going to lag through the zone. We want to be able to get that thing through the zone quick, so you're getting the strength benefits. Now put the game bat, and it's really fast. You do that over time, 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 2 and 2, and a lot of reps. Your bat speed which I do talk about, is going to increase, which is going to relate to or resonate with getting exit velocity increases. That's the number one way to do it, combined with a really good strength and conditioning program as you get older, which is also inside of our subscription with Chris Keevitt. Oh my God, how amazing is he to get kids stronger and faster? You combine a really good strength and conditioning program along with overload, underload. I will put a lot of money on every kid that ever does that is going to have a pretty good jump in their X velocity.
100%. And that's the thing, that drill that you just talked about is overload, underload, right? And
Yep.
That's why during the overload, we use the CamWood hands and speed trainer. And I always tell people all the time, the reason we use this bat, like Wes was saying, the weight is right above the hands, okay? If you were to grab a normal overload trainer with all the weight in the barrel, it's going to be just like a sledgehammer, right? With all the weight on the end of the bat. If I were to go to swing this right now, this feels way too heavy for me to swing. It's going to slow my swing down. It's also going to break down my mechanics, okay? But if I take that same sledgehammer and I hold it from right below the weight, well, now this is much easier for me to control, right? It's the same weight sledgehammer. It's just the weight placement is in a different spot, okay? It's the exact same with the CamWood hands and speed trainer here. All the weight in the CamWood is right here above the hands, so it allows me to swing a heavier bat, but it's not going to break down my mechanics, okay? It's actually going to improve my mechanics because the weight right above the hands is going to help you get connected first, stay inside it, and get that proper extension, all right? So like I said yesterday in day number 1, the reason this bat was created was to teach the proper bat path, right? But since it is a heavier trainer, the bat speed, the exit velocity increases is just icing on the cake, all right? So,
hey, I want to tell you something real quick. And this goes back, of course, Coach blew his Achilles out. I'm helping with the hitting a little bit. They have some bats in there. I won't name the company, but it's an end-loaded, a middle-loaded, and a hand-loaded. And they have been doing that. Okay, so I go up there the other day, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to mess with anything. That's their thing. So I'm up there working with the kids, and I let them do it, let them do their routine, you know, and everything. Well, I go back up there Tuesday, say, hey, we're going to change this up. I was like, I might get in trouble for this, but here's what I'm going to do. We're going to take out the end-loaded bat and throw it away. We're only going to use the CamWood for the heavy, and we're going to use the really light one for the underload. Okay, so we did CamWood for the heavy because their heavy was end-loaded, and we did the really light one for the underload. And they asked me why, and one of the kids goes, well, why are we doing that, Coach Wes? And I'm like, well, here's the reason why. I watched y'all do it the other day. I'm not black and white. I always am searching for better ways to do things with kids because these kids today are different. They're built different. Their minds are different. Their personalities are different. So I'm not black and white. I want to learn what resonates with them. Everyone that used that end-loaded heavy bat dropped the barrel when they first started swinging because they couldn't control it. Every single one of them, even the most strongest kid on the team, the kid that's going to play in college, the football quarterback, couldn't control that end-loaded bat. So I explained it to him. I said, every ball y'all are hitting was pop up, pop up, pop up, pop up. And you got the lighter bat and y'all were nuking balls to the back. What does that tell you? And they're like, we're dropping back here. I'm like, yes. Is that going to play in the game? They're like, no. I said, let's throw it out. Let's grab the CamWood hands and speed trainer. So they got tons of them up there at this high school. We did the CamWood hands and speed trainer, and we didn't do their game bat. We did the underload of the other company just so we could keep that in there. And every single kid consistently was just nuking balls with the CamWood and nuking balls with the underload. And I explained it to them. I said, it's very important how weight is distributed in a bat when you use it. That's why some players like an end-loaded bat. Some players like a balanced bat. Every player's different. Some kids, if they try to swing an end-loaded game bat, they're going to drop. They can't control it. They need to go to a balanced bat. There's no different in your training. When we train, we got to be able to control the barrel. No matter what drill we're doing, no matter what bat we're using, we got to control this. Okay? And if we can't control this, we don't need to use it. And I'm telling you, and now they're going to use this as their overload, and they're going to use the other one as their underload. And it totally changed how their training went.
Yep. Like I said, that the overload underload is very powerful. Like you were saying, I prefer to use an actual game bat for my underload, because whenever, like, say you use like a fungo or something like that, so you use a CamWood and then you go and you use your fungo. Well, what happens when you pick up your game bat right after that? That game bat's not going to feel as light anymore because you just use that fungo, right? So, what, Wes? I know you got something to say.
I was going to say something, but you go ahead first.
But anyways, so whenever we do this drill, I use my CamWood as my overload. I use an actual game bat as my underload. So whenever I actually do get into a game situation, that is what I'm already quick with, right? That's what I already have confidence with. Because I know as a hitter, whenever you go up to the plate, you want that bat to feel light. You want to feel like you can easily get it to the zone. It's going to give you that little extra bit of confidence. If you get on deck and you swing your bat and you don't hear that whooshing sound of you swinging, that might play with you mentally a little bit. You're like, man, I'm not swinging the bat as quick today. But you do the drills, you get used to swinging your actual game bat that feels light as a feather because you're training with the hands of speed trainer first. It's just going to give you a little bit extra added confidence at the plate as well.
That being said, that's why there's no right or wrong to anything, but you have to know the individual. Every hitter I work with, I probably do something totally different with everyone because I get to know the person. There's no cookie cutter way. There's principles, there's fundamentals. Yes, that's across the board. But like I would use a fungo tray only if it's probably a kid that doesn't have very good fast twitch muscles and has a really slow swing even with their game bat.
Yeah,
I've always put a fungo in their hand, or whatever, just so they can really let it go. Like they're training their body to work fast. Even though they do get their game bat and it feels heavier, I'm trying to get their mind and body to understand quick. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But understand this when you're out there is, we got to have some adjustability sometimes with each kid because everybody's built different. Everybody, their strengths, stronger, weaker, fast twitch, non-fast twitch, skinny, heavier set. There's so many different things we have to deal with. There's no one way to do every single kid. So understand that, dads and moms, when you are out there working with your son or daughter, understand that something might not be working with them. It might not be a bad drill, just might not be for them.
Yep. So we've been going for about an hour, 10 minutes now. So that's going to be the end of the content for day number 2. Yeah. So as you know, day 2, all about lower half, teaching the proper sequence of the swing, how to get the proper extension, how to increase your exit velocities. Because obviously, if you have the proper sequence and you have the proper swing, your exit velocities are going to increase as well, right? So, and like we mentioned already before, we do have the All-American 30-day program where you can learn from Wes and I. That gives you the full daily structure, day 1 through day 30, to teach you what we just went over today, right? It's to teach you how to use your lower half properly and how to have the proper sequence in your swing. Welcome to day number 3 of the Elite Hitting Blueprint. Today's going to be the last day that we do this. I know we've covered a lot of information over the last 2 days. Day number 1, we talked about the approach, the bat path, obviously how we want to look away, drive away, react in, because that's just going to help our mechanics. And then from a bat path perspective, you always want to try to stay inside the ball because that's what's going to keep the barrel or the sweet spot of your bat in the hitting zone all the way through extension. Okay, so it's going to give you the best chance to barrel the ball up, even when your timing is just off. All right. And then day number 2, we talked about lower half, how to load properly, how to get grounded, how to get the proper separation, and the proper sequence that the body fires in order to produce that proper swing. Okay. So obviously you want to fire from inside the back knee, and then the hip, and then the hands follow through, get the proper extension through the ball, which is going to allow you to drive the ball to all parts of the field with power, okay? So now that we talked about kind of the mechanics of the swing, Wes, now that they have all this information, they know how to do it, they know what to do, but they might not know exactly how to structure it, right? Because say you're a brand new player and you have a bunch of different flaws in your swing, you don't want to try to fix everything all at one time. So you want to have a certain routine to follow in the cage during your training in order to see that progress. You don't want to throw everything at them at once. You want to kind of create that day-by-day structure in order to progress over a certain amount of time, which will help that player improve, right? Yes. So Wes, talk a little bit about routine, kind of what your routine was and the importance of having a routine.
To me, a routine is actually the most important thing with anything we do. It could be, you know, going to the weight room. It could be going to the cage, doing ground ball work, pitchers doing bullpens, you know, flat ground work. Anything we do in sports, in life, routine is the most important thing. And that goes away from sports as well. So I always use the terminology. If you live by the word discipline, you will be successful in something that you put your mind and heart to, because discipline is the most important thing that anybody can be in life in whatever they do. So the routine, that's discipline. That shows me I'm going to be disciplined to do this every single day. I'm going to do a little bit each day to get better, because we can't do everything in one day to make it happen. It has to be one block at a time. The house is built. It's, you know, you put the bricks on, it's one block at a time. And that's basically what a routine does in sports with hitting, fielding, anything that we do. So routine is the most important thing, Trey, in my opinion. You know, so when I look at a kid, say he or she is doing 3 or 4 things that I think we need to really focus on, we'll break it down and start off like day one. We'll break it down into days and weeks and say, all right, here's what we're starting with this week. Next week, we'll transition to this. Next week, we'll transition to this. And it's like a 2, 3, 4, 5 week process. I tell everyone it's not going to happen in a week. We're not going to do different drills on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and all of a sudden, boom, we're done, and you're better. That's not the way it works. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So our routines need to kind of be geared toward down the road. A routine isn't to fix things now. A routine is so we can be better in the long terms, because in my opinion, if you do it that way, the things that we get better at are you're going to maintain them more. If you have the process of a routine that goes on like a marathon rather than a short sprint routine, you might get better in that short amount of time, but I guarantee you're probably going to lose some of that eventually if you don't maintain it, and you're not going to be as good as you will if you spread it out over a long period of time.
Yep, exactly. And I remember, obviously, growing up, you know, I would always go down to the cage and hit and get extra swings in, but I was just down there swinging. I wasn't really working on anything. And whenever I saw my best progress is whenever, like I said, after my junior year in high school, I started working with my hitting coach, Frank Gregory. And Frank would take me through his plan and his process. So whenever I'd show up to the cage and work with him, he already knew what we were doing, how many swings we were taking that day, to make sure that I was getting the most results. So the moment that I saw that big jump in my mechanics and in my hitting was whenever I had that coach that was taking me through a process and through a plan and teaching me a routine. Okay. So, and like you said, with Frank, when we first started out, you know, we started from the basics. We started from the bottom, and we just gradually progressed through each drill until by the end of it, you know, after a good 2 or 3 months of us working together, is whenever I became consistent of being able to kind of take my swing off of a tee and kind of know where the ball was going, and then be able to transition that into the game. So, and I still remember, you know, whenever I was younger, I always struggled with losing weight. And I'm sure a lot of people do that. A lot of people struggle with the weight loss. And I would try everything. I'd worked out every day, literally worked out all the time, and just never could seem to get it off. And I remember one of my buddies, he said that, you know, he had lost like 15 pounds following this program inside of the gym. So this program was literally laid out like day one, do this many reps, do this exercise, this many reps. And if you followed it all the way through, then it gave you that plan in order for you to see that progress in the gym. And I remember I followed it day by day from day one all the way to day 90. And I ended up losing 30 pounds in 90 days. So I tried working out on my own, right? Doing it myself, but I didn't really start seeing the progress until I followed a certain plan, and followed and had a coach that kind of like guide me and walk me through it. So, you know, I take that same approach from when I lost weight to when I got into college, when I didn't have my hitting coach with me anymore, right? So I had to create this plan and know what I was going to do every day when I stepped in the cage, because as you know, I was a 180 hitter my junior year of high school, ended up hitting 300 my first time in my career in my senior year of high school, and I ended up walking on in college. All right. So whenever I got to college, I was a third string first baseman again. I literally went from being a backup my junior year in high school to now I'm the third string first baseman in college. So, and I didn't have my hitting coach with me. That was the problem is, I'm hours away from my hitting coach. I didn't have someone working with me in person. So I had to follow this plan, and I had to create a routine for me to do every single day for whenever I got my opportunity, I was ready and I was prepared for it. So sure enough, in the fall, first game of the fall, starting first baseman tears his ACL. The backup first baseman ends up getting kicked off the team for drugs. And sure enough, I'm the only guy left, right? And because I had the routine, I was disciplined with my drills every day. I was prepared when I got that opportunity. Ended up being all conference, leading the team in every hitting category. And the reason for that is because I had that routine and I followed it. So I was prepared when the opportunity came. So like I said, I can't stress enough just the importance of having that type of routine. But Wes, for you, I know that you just got done doing a program with a softball team, right?
Yes.
And I kind of just want to talk to you about building a plan. Like how do you structure that hitting plan for you to be able to follow every day so you're seeing that progress?
So basically, I kind of take the time. So yes, I did a softball program, a 7A school here in Birmingham, Alabama, a really top high school program. They've come short in state the last few years, so they wanted to get, one of their weak points was their hitting overall as a team. So they wanted to get it better. So next year with their pitching, they got a chance to win state. So that being said, with high school, so we have our 30-day All-American program. So they wanted their program to be more geared toward their problem was their girls could not drive the ball. Everybody was just, hitting little singles and, getting out on the infield, or balls that were hitting the outfield were dying, so they were getting caught. So I talked to the coach and I said, look, we have our programs, but I'm going to mesh our All-American program into our 10-day exit velocity program. And we're going to mesh them together. And I'm going to come up with a routine and a program for 6 weeks, because we could only do it 3 days a week with the high school rules in the fall. They couldn't do it every day. So I'm like, all right, well, we got 45 minutes on each day a week. So 45 minutes, 3 days a week, which, what is that? An hour and a half, 2 hours and 15 minutes a week. And so that being said, I've created this program with the hands and speed trainer and their game bats. And we started doing different drills and we did our All-American drills with it's inside the app. Inside the program. And we did the drills that come with our 10-day X velocity program.
Yep.
And I meshed it all together. And our plan was to have a routine. And I told the girls this at the beginning. You got to buy into the process. You got to trust the process. You're not going to get better after day 1. You're not going to get better after day 2. Even after we tested, because we tested exit velocity at the beginning, we tested it every 2 weeks. So we had 4 tests. And that being said, I kept telling them, like, look, even in that first 2 weeks, you might not have a big jump in exit velocity, but you got to trust the routine of the 6 weeks and the process of doing it 3 days a week for 45 minutes. And that being said, they all bought in. They all did it. And some jumped the first 2 weeks. I think we had 4 out of them that didn't. After the 4th week, all of them jumped, and everyone after the 6 weeks hit a PR. And they were so excited that everyone that last night, it was like a party in here when we were testing off the hit tracks. They hit a PR, and they were, literally, they were just overwhelmed. The coaches, the players. And I sat them down after we were done, and I said, look, I'm going to go back to day 1 when I said trust the process. Yep. By you trusting this routine, which is the process. A routine is a process. Trust the process of the routine. You will all get better in the end, because I know the program works. I will put my stamp on, if you give me the effort, the focus, and trust the process and the routine, you will all have an exit velocity jump in the end. And every one of them did. And they realized the importance of having that routine. And it's not going to happen overnight. It took 6 weeks to get that PR overall. And they understood it takes time. It's not a sprint. Like I say, it's a marathon. So that was huge, for that team. But it's also huge to show that our CamWood programs work if you really buy in and trust the routine and the process and do it, how you're supposed to do it. That put a bigger stamp on our CamWood programs when we did that and everyone bought in.
And that's the thing is, a lot of people get our program, right? And like I said, it gives you that 30-day plan. And Wes, I'm sure you've noticed a lot of players are really excited to do this program, right? So they'll go through week 1 and they'll finish week 1. Everything's really good. And then week 2 starts, which is when we kind of start getting into that lower half. And then you start seeing them fall off a little bit, right? A lot of players have a hard time actually sticking through that 30-day plan.
Yes.
So what are some of some tips and tricks for parents if they're working with their players? How do you motivate somebody to stick to it when they might not see the results right away that they were wanting to see?
Well, you got to understand, you still want to have fun doing it. You don't want everything to be so serious. If any of you out there saw some of our Instagram posts or social media posts with me with the girls, they were having fun even though they were focused. I mean, I can still be focused and disciplined, but still have fun and be energetic and laugh and carry on. People are so misled by that. They think, let's be serious. Let's don't laugh. Let's don't talk. Coach might get mad. No, that's not the way this game's supposed to be played. You got to play it loose. So my recommendation would be at the beginning, your son or daughter, just say, all right, here, we got this 30-day All-American program. We're going to do this. But it's going to be like Groundhog's Day. You're going to do this many reps every day. It's going to be a process. You might get frustrated during it. You might not get frustrated doing it. But if you see that you've hit a stale point, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going and keep going. And that's the hardest thing for anybody to do in life is we want instant success. Everybody does. Not everybody has the mental toughness to be able to wait on success. And I always tell kids, you're not going to get it at the beginning. You might not even get it halfway through. Some of you might. It might take doing the 30-day program, and you might have to even start over and do it again because everybody's different. And I just communicate with them. I think communicating really helps them keep their attitude right. I think if you are hard on them and you start, why are you upset? Why are you this? No. Just talk with them. Say, hey, come on, it's okay. It's okay to struggle. It's okay. I know you're not feeling like you're getting better, but I promise you're probably getting better. You just don't see it yet. Just talk to them and communicate with them. That's, to me, the best coaches out there to communicate with their players. The ones that don't communicate and get mad and don't say anything to their players, that's the ones that, in my opinion, the players get more frustrated because they don't know what the coach is thinking. So as a dad, a mom, a coach, and you're doing a program or a routine with someone, you got to give it time. You got to talk with the player, communicate with the player, keep positive vibes, add music. All right, you see the players getting a little bit stale. I'm going to add music today. Let's play some music while we're doing this today. Let's do our reps with music. Let's start to get a little rhythm in here, get a little life in the room. And there's always ways you can change it up because, trust me, it's like Groundhog's Day. If you do a routine the right way, it's like Groundhog's Day. It's the same thing over and over. But, of course, that's what you want. You want to build the proper muscle memory.
Yep. And like I said, a lot of players, another thing that I was going to add to that too was, you said to add some rhythm, have some fun to it. I like to add a little bit of a competitive factor to it, right? Like if you're doing the program by yourself, you might not be as motivated as opposed to doing it with another teammate or a team as a whole. Like Wes, you just got done doing this entire program and this routine with a whole team. It wasn't just one player. So you have other players that are able, like maybe a day you're not really as motivated. You get someone else in there that can lift you up, right? And as you follow along those 30 days with somebody else, you have that competitive factor mode into it. You're going to see a lot better results.
Yes, 100%.
So I saw you just reading somebody's message.
No, I just see where it says positive vibes go a long way, which, of course, that's always in everything in life. Positive is going to kill negativity. Love the message, Trey. You see compound effect, do a little. Yeah, I mean, this is what we want to hear. We want y'all to get the message we're sending, and, we want feedback. I love that people, even if you're not asking a question and you're giving us, feedback, that's what we want.
Yep. So a lot of people ask this question as well, Wes. Okay, so we're talking routine, right? You have your cage routine. You have the drills that you do every day. So now it's time for you to start playing games. what type of routine, or how do you take your cage routine into a game type situation? Like, so would you show up, say 30 minutes early to do your drills that you do every day in the cage before your game starts?
That's a good point, because I get asked all the time, like, all right, I've got this stretch of the off season. I'm going to work. Then once games start, like during the season, what do I do? And that's a really good point, because, you know, whether it be strength and conditioning, hitting, fielding, we don't want to overdo it during the season, but we got to maintain. The word is maintain. During the season, we're not trying to get crazy gains, because if we do, that shows we're doing too much work, which is going to take away from our game. We might be tired, fatigued, you know, sore, too sore to play. Soreness is good, but we don't want to be too sore that it affects us on the field. That goes in the weight room, that goes in hitting, that goes in throwing, that goes in fielding. We want on game day to be as fresh as we can be. That's what the ultimate goal is. Be as prepared as we can be, but be fresh when that first pitch is thrown. So my way of looking at it is this: in off season, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to do all of my cage work, my drills. I'm going to rep, and I'm going to focus of gains. Well, once the season starts, I start backing off. And what I do is I take a certain core, like maybe 2 to 4 drills. I get to the field each day, and I did this in the big leagues. I would get to the field each day, go to the cage by myself, or if it was a drill I was doing with the hitting coach that required him to toss or do something like that, I would do that. But I would go to the cage, and I would just go through my 2 to 3, maybe 4 drills, taking 10 to 15 swings off each drill. And all I'm doing is maintaining that muscle memory and that feel. I love to use the word feel. I want to feel what I'm doing before the game, so that way my mind's already programmed of the muscle memory and the feel I need to take into batting practice and into the game. That happened every single day for 162 games. I did that for 162 games in a row, and it never got me tired, because all I was doing, say 3 drills, 10 swings each, that's 30 swings. It might be tee, hands and speed trainer off the back net, or it might be one-hander, boom, towards second base. Whatever I felt like those drills I needed at that given day to keep me where I need to be, I did them every single day as just a maintenance program. It was not to get tired. It was not to overexert myself, and it was not to get fatigued. I wanted to be ready for the game. It was all on having that feel and that muscle memory leading into it.
Yep. You hear it all the time. I mean, I'm sure you do too, is players do the 30-day program, and then once the 30 days is over, they're like, well, what do I do now? I'm like, you saw such good results in those 30 days. You just keep doing that. You've built the routine after those 30 days. Now you just go in the cage, and like what you're saying, you maintain, you get more consistent. That's what I always tell players, is we still do these drills to get more consistent at it, because you're not going to be perfect after 30 days, right? So you have to start building that consistency. Like even me in college, I did these drills in this program whenever I was in high school. Okay. Every day in college, I did the exact same drills. Like I literally used these same drills for 5 years in college, every day before practice and before games, because I was just working on my consistency. I wanted to maintain that consistency, because it's just like working out. You go to the gym, you hit it hard for 2 months straight, you're going to get stronger, right? But what happens if you stop going to the gym for 2 months? You're going to lose all of those gains. Okay. It's kind of the same whenever it comes to hitting. If you don't continue to work on it and continue to maintain, you're going to lose it. Okay. So even with me in college, like Wes was saying, I show up before games. I'm going back to the basic drills. I'm going to my one-hander. I'm doing my hands and speed trainer, and I'm doing enough to where I'm consistent. So say I get my one-hander out. If I'm, 10 to 15 balls in and I've been consistent, I'm hitting my points, I'll move on to the next drill, right? But say I'm struggling on a drill, right? I'll put a little bit more emphasis and do a little bit more swings on that certain thing. All right. So I want to go until I feel good and I'm consistent in the cage before practice and before games. So
the biggest word you said right there is what I live by: consistency. Everybody asks me, what's the difference in a big leaguer, a minor leaguer, a college player, a high school player? And I'm like, a lot of times from big leagues to minor leagues, it's not even talent level. It's whoever's more consistent. And the most important thing for a pitcher, most important thing for a hitter is if a pitcher can repeat his delivery, if a hitter can repeat his mechanics. That's what it is. Some of the best athletes in the world never make it because they can't repeat their mechanics over and over and over, no matter what pitch is thrown at them. Everything needs to be consistent. And the only way we do that is learn that in practice. We do not learn that in the game. We have to build that consistency and muscle memory in practice. That's why it's so important to have the right routine, the right focus, the right discipline in practice. Because here's the thing, I tell every kid I work with, every high school team, when I'm helping with the baseball team up here in Birmingham, there's no egos in practice. Practice is not meant to look like the game. It's meant to work on things and fundamentals and building muscle memory and being consistent with our movements. That's what practice is meant. And inter squads, inter squad games in practice, that's how we get ready for the game. We don't get ready for the game in the cage and all that. That's building our muscle memory and everything we need to repeat our mechanics.
Yep.
Hitting live arm is what gets us ready for the game. So when we're hitting off the tee and we're hitting front toss or even BP, take the ego out the door. I don't care. It's about I'm going to work on what I need to be as consistent as I can whenever I face that pitcher that's on the mound. So
you say that, like I said, that what comes to mind is Freddie Freeman. Go watch Freddie Freeman hit BP. So, Wes, go into a little bit about that BP and that routine and what you see whenever Freddie Freeman's hitting. Like, what's the proper BP?
Well, for me personally, like I'm going to use Freddie Freeman. I'm going to use Miguel Cabrera. I'm going to use Chipper Jones. I can name you hundreds of players in the big leagues that I played against or played with or whatever, and you watch them take BP, and everybody does it the same way. So it works. So therefore, like Freddie Freeman talked about it, World Series MVP, so it's starting to go everywhere viral now. Everything is opposite field gap to opposite field. First round, next round is big part of the field. So always remember that first round, it's opposite field to opposite field gap. Second round is big part of the field, which means gap to gap. And the third round is hit it where it's pitched. But, you're not trying to lift balls out of the park. Freddie Freeman, all these guys don't try to hit homers in BP. None of them. Miguel Cabrera, all of them. All they're doing is getting their contact point where it needs to be. They're filling their hands. They're filling their hip. They're getting everything worked and getting the process ready for the game. That's all they're doing. They're not trying to launch balls. Some guys are strong enough, like your Judges and Stantons and this. They're strong enough that if they just tap the ball, it's going to go out. But overall, the majority, like if we do it the right way, we're going to pepper balls off the wall. Some might go out, but majority is line drives, opposite field gap, big part of the field, and then the last round or so hit it where it's pitched. And that's what Freddie Freeman does. That's what Miguel Cabrera did. I mean, all these guys do the same thing. That's their approach to BP. And, I see kids now, their first three swings on short toss, their first three swings in BP, they're sitting here trying to yank everything and hit it to the pull side. And what they don't understand is that's where the ego comes in. They feel like they have to do that to impress somebody, which I tell them all the time, like, guys, you're in high school. You're not going to impress me. I've been around the guys that hit the ball 10 times harder than you. I don't care. But that being said, they don't understand that what they're doing is setting themselves up for failure in the game. And that's one of the hardest things to get kids to understand is the proper way to take BP, the proper way. First swing in the cage off short toss. I'll even dumb it down to short toss. I'm thinking let the ball travel. Even if I hit the ball into the, if I'm a righty and I hit the ball even off front toss to the first base coach, that's better than you yanking the first pitch. Because if you yank the first pitch, everything's working the wrong way. But if I go like this and like, a little late on that one, guess what? You're still connected. Your direction is good. Now you can just start creeping up a few inches until now I'm driving balls the other way.
Yep. And whenever Freddie Freeman was talking about it, I think this was like right after the World Series. He's talking about his dad throwing BP to him. The first round is always opposite field. So he's throwing it on the outer half of the plate. He's trying to hit a line drive to the shortstop. As a lefty, you're hitting the ball to the shortstop. As a righty, you're hitting the ball to the second baseman. And then the next round, no matter where the ball's pitched, he's still trying to hit the ball to the opposite field. So why would somebody want to do that on the first round or first 2 rounds during BP, Wes?
So it sets your direction. That's all it does. It sets your direction. It sets your path. We always talk about that. I need to set my bat path. I got to set my bat path because we always say the game's going to speed us up and we react in, which is so true. I'm not setting my path in practice this way. I'm going to set my path being direct. In, boom. It goes like that. I'm not yanking that inside pitch. My eyes tell the barrel where to go. It sees inside and you naturally react. That's what you want to build that muscle memory for. So when I think right center gap to right field in BP, I'm setting my path because I'm letting the ball travel, which, like Jeter said, gives me more time. Gives me more time to recognize the pitch, see the ball, track the ball. You're building all those things you need when you get into the game. The eyesight. You're building the control of staying back. You're building that approach of staying behind the ball and not out over the ball. So many things go into play when we talk about taking BP and our cage routine with good direction. That right there will fix a lot of mechanical flaws.
Yep. So we're about to get into where we're going to show you how we broke down our program and how we created our program. That way, you can go and you can create your own, or you can just follow the ones that we already created. But you brought up Derek Jeter, Wes, and you always tell the story of Jeter when you talk to him about his routine. And the main thing is whether you're on a high or whether you're in a slump, you have to maintain that same routine because that's what's made you successful and what got you to that level. So, Wes, talk about that story.
Mental toughness and discipline. That's exactly what Derek Jeter means when he says this. 20-plus year career, never, ever changed his routine. He could be 4 for 4. He could be hitting 320 at that point of the season. He could be 0 for 15, 0 for 20, having a slump, hitting 200 during that period. Guess what? He doesn't change his routine. He trusts the process. You'll hear me say it over and over. Trust the process. He knew what routine worked for him. All those years, he figured it out. Okay? He figured out the routine that worked for him. So he had the mental toughness and the discipline to know, I don't care if I'm going good. If I'm going bad, I'm sticking to it. How many players out there do you see have a routine? Boom. Oh, I'm 2 for 4. I'm 3 for 4. I'm 1 for 4 with a homer. I'm 2 for 4. Oh, my gosh, I'm feeling good. Uh-oh, 0 for 4. Hey, can we go to the cage tonight? I need to change something. How many hitters do you see do that? Guess what? Majority. Because they're not taught to trust the process. Teach your players, moms, dads, coaches, to trust the process. And that's what Jeter's talking about. He's talking about trusting the process, trusting the routine. No matter if I'm going good or bad, I know that's what I need to do to be consistent every day. Because you got to understand, the pitcher is going to get us out sometime, even if we are an elite player. So we cannot ride on emotions. If you ride on emotions, you'll be changing your swing every day. You'll do something different in the cage every day. You can't ride on emotions. You got to ride on consistency and what you know works for you. And if you have the mental toughness and the discipline to do that, you will be successful over an entire season. Like I said, it's not about one game. Numbers are about the entire season. We can't go on, oh my gosh, I was 0 for 4. No. Guess what? Next game, you're 2 for 4. Well, now you're hitting 250. It goes up pretty quick, doesn't it? So we can't ride on emotions daily. We have to look at the long term, which that's where the routine comes in.
Yep, that makes sense. So
real quick, Trey, we got a question here, and this goes back to the routine with Bobby. Say, is it fine to take rest days and let him work day 5 a couple times or whatever? Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like the All-American program has so many swings per day, and Trey, you can hit on this. The rest days are put in there because we don't want kids to get burnt out. We don't want them to get frustrated to the point where they're like, all right, I'm done. This rest day lets them regroup. it lets their mind regroup. Like, it gives them a mental break. Go play video games, go play in the creek, go climb trees, do something different, and let's regroup the next day. So, in my opinion, I would go hard, and then on that day off, I would try my best to take that day off during this program, because it's not like you're doing a maintenance program where it's only, 20 to 30, maybe 40 swings. It's a lot of swings in a day. And especially for a kid, especially a younger kid, that rest day is going to be important to keep them loving the game. We want them to love the game. And if we run them into ground at an early age and not let them be a kid and do the things kids should be doing, then we might push them away more than we bring them in.
Yep. And that's the thing is, like, yeah, this is a 30-day plan. It doesn't have to be done in 30 days. All right. So if your child, your child might be 8 years old, 9 years old doing this. If they struggle on day number 2, well, let's redo day number 2, right? Let's make sure that they understand how to be consistent in the proper movements, and before we move on to the next concept. So, you can take this 30-day plan and stretch it out to 40 days, 45 days.
Yep.
Whatever is comfortable for that player. Okay. What we've given is just a blueprint. It's a guide. It's something that you're able to follow, but you do it at your own pace. All right.
Now, if you're built like me, I did the 30-day program in one day.
Yeah.
I did 10,000 and something reps in one day. But, not everybody can be the same. Not everybody's built the same. But I'm just saying, like, that's why you don't ever follow a big leaguer until you get there.
That's funny.
We're built different. We're built a lot different.
Talking about the program, we created the All-American 30-Day program. The reason I created this program is because it's exactly what I did in order to become an All-American, right? So that's where the name came from. So this was a program that my hitting coach, Frank, taught me. And I took that information and I created my own 30-day plan. So, over 20,000 players went through that first version of the program. And then we ended up bringing Wes into the business as well. And I asked Wes, I said, Wes, I want you to go through this 30-day program, and I want you to tell me where we can make it better, right? I always wanted to improve the program to improve the results and make sure that everybody got the results if they follow through that 30 days. And Wes looked at me. We were in the hotel in Arizona, and Wes looked at me. He was like, to be honest with you, I think we could do a little bit better. So I was like, well, whenever we get back from Arizona, I'm driving to Birmingham, and we're going to sit down. We're going to rewrite the program, and we're going to refilm all the drills. So me and Wes sat down and recreated the All-American program, which you'll see is the All-American program part 2, or no, it's the 2.0, the updated version. So Wes, I want to kind of go through the program, and I want you to talk about how we built it and why it's laid out the way that it is. All right.
All right.
So let me share.
And I'm glad to hear, Bobby, that your son loves it, because that's what we want. That's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal with anything we do in sports is to have our kids love it. We don't want them to hate it. And I always say this: I don't want to try to make it and hate it. I want to love it as I'm trying to make it. So always remember that. We want the kids to love it, because not everybody's going to play at the next level. We got to let them have the experience of a lifetime as a kid.
Yep. So inside the All-American program. So this is the CamWood app. Okay. So inside the app, you have access to this program. So Wes, kind of talk about the layout. So week 1, week 2, week 3, and why we positioned it the way that we did.
Well, so basically what we wanted to do, we wanted to cover every aspect of how the swing works. And now, don't get me wrong. I want to say this. It's kind of like my infield program. I'm getting ready to come out with an advanced one. It's a baseline. It's a guideline for everybody. Everybody can do this program, but then there's going to be certain drills we need to throw at, more advanced drills, to help some kids move a certain way, depending on their body types and their mobility and everything. This is basically a fundamental program for everybody. This is not an advanced that we need to get into as, certain drills down the road. This is, basically walks you through every aspect of how the body works in the swing. And what it does, we start with hands. We want to really start with hands and understand how our hands work. We want to understand and feel. We want to feel our hands. We want to feel the barrel. We want to feel that palm up at contact. We want to build that muscle memory of the hands on the bat. That's the first thing. Then we start adding the lower half, which is very crucial, because I always say this: If I cut someone off at the waist, I can still hold a bat and swing it. So that's why we do hands first. Our hands have to work. Okay, if we have a great lower half and our hands don't know where to go, then it's pointless. And if we have great hands and our legs don't know where to go, we still can do something. Okay, so you got to remember that. We want to go hands first. So then we get into the lower half, which now we're starting to understand stability and, you know, getting into the load, the gather, however you want to say it, getting into separation, getting grounded. Now that allows everything from waist up to be where it needs to be with great direction and great extension. We can't get everything working properly unless both parts are doing their part. And the lower half, to me, if you got a great upper half, the lower half is going to take that to another level. So we have to understand that. Like, a lot of people just work their swing. They work their swing, but they don't pay attention to the bottom half. So that's where I told Trey, I said, Trey, we need to redo this program and do the same thing working these hands, but we need now to let people know how to understand the lower half. We need them to understand how the lower half works in the swing. And then in the end, you just put it all together. That's all. You just putting it everything together in the end. And over 30 days, your son or daughter will understand how the body works, how it syncs up, how we get separated. It will tell them everything they need to know about the proper fundamentals of the swing. Now we can start getting more advanced with them.
And that's the thing, this 30-day program, like I said, this is the fundamentals. It's teaching you the basics, right? It's teaching you how to get connected first, teaching you a good understanding of how to use that lower half. Like I said, you're not going to have a perfect swing after 30 days, but it's going to teach you the proper fundamentals, and it's going to help guide you to that, right? So like, even for me, I didn't have a perfect swing after 30 days. I mean, it took me almost a year to actually understand this to where it clicked for me, right? And a lot of that part was the approach side of it. But I just wanted to go through here and just kind of show you kind of the layout of how we do it too, like every day. So this is day number 1. You start simple, right? You start with the bottom hand, one hand drill. Okay. So all the reps for day number 1 is just the one hander, right? So you start small and then you start progressing through each drill. So once you get more consistent with the one hander, then we move into the bigger bat. Then once you get consistent with the hands, we start introducing lower half. Okay. So like Wes was saying, day 1 through day 5, going to be about hands. All right. It's teaching you that proper bat path. Okay. It's teaching you how to get connected, teaching you how to stay inside the ball and get good extension through it. Week number 2, day 8 through day 12, we're going to start incorporating that lower half. All right. We're going to start teaching you how to use the lower half the right way. All right. Days 15 through 19, that's going to be marrying the two together. Okay. We're going to start working on that full swing. And then the rest of the program is, yes, we're still working on the full swing. We're working on the consistency, but we're working on increasing that bat speed and that exit velocity as well. Okay. So it's very simple right here, laid out day 1 through day 30, and shows you the drills, shows you the workouts for each day. That way you guarantee that you see the results. All right. So just like that, I mean, it's, when you think about it, it's a simple process, right? It's a simple plan. It's easy to do whenever you have it laid out. So whenever I get to the cage that day, I already know exactly what drills I'm doing and how many reps to take each day to make sure that I get the results.
Every drill in this program, every single player needs to do these drills. And let me explain that. All drills aren't for everybody. That's why when I work with a girl or in softball or a guy in baseball, I might do a drill with this guy that I won't do with this person. Everybody's different, but there are also core drills that everybody can do. We only put the drills in the app that is for everybody. So don't think, oh, well, that's not for my son or daughter. No, these need to be the drills you need to be doing. The other drills are more advanced. That's individualized. This should be across the board for everybody.
Yep. And that's what I like too about the program is, like Wes said, these are core drills. This is just teaching you the basic fundamentals that everybody should be learning, right? But say you're doing the program and we see, like, you post a video of your swing and we see that you need to work on extension maybe. Well, an extension drill is not really a part of the program, but we have drills, a drill library that we're able to say, okay, you need to work on your extension a little bit more. Here's an extension drill that you should do between now and the next day that you work the program, right? So we're able to critique and add things to the program as well. Because like I said, whenever you're creating a program for somebody, it's going to be player A is going to be different from player B, right? So being able to have those core drills, but also having a drill library and more advanced drills to throw into it, we're able to make sure that everybody sees those results in those 30 days. All right.